Chapter 40-70. Get ready. Long Chen's eyes flashed. He got up and walked behind the door, restraining his aura to the extreme. Qin Feiyong and the others looked at each other and got up one after another. They walked to both sides of the door like ghosts, waiting for Zhang Yunshuang and the others to push the door open and take them down in one fell swoop. Outside, Zhang Yuquan flew in front. Zhang Yunshuang, Zhang Xing, and Zhang Zishan followed behind him. The three of them looked at Zhang Yuquan's back with a trace of suspicion on their faces. Soon, the four of them landed in the courtyard. Brother Kuan, what are you trying to do? Zhang Xing scanned the courtyard and looked at Zhang Yuquan with a cheeky smile. Although he was stronger than Zhang Yuquan, he looked at Zhang Yuquan with a trace of flattery. The reason was simple. Zhang Yuquan was the descendant of the 10 Venerables. He was the real direct descendant. Zhang Xing and Zhang Zishan were collateral descendants. It was because of their fighting souls that they broke the rules and went to the Divine Island to cultivate. In terms of status, they were lower than Zhang Yuquan, a playboy. Of course, collateral descendants like Zhang Xing and Zhang Zishan actually looked down on Zhang Yuquan in their hearts, because people like Zhang Yuquan were not worth mentioning at all. But there was no other way. He was born with an unparalleled identity and status. Don't worry, you'll know later. Zhang Yuquan smiled mysteriously. You'd better not waste my time. Zhang Yunshuang was not happy. She had always been disgusted with this cousin of hers. Except for bullying others and idling around, he had no other advantages. But after all, he was a relative. Sometimes she still had to give him face. I won't. Zhang Yuquan waved his hand. There seemed to be a trace of fear towards Zhang Yunshuang. You're all here. But just as Zhang Yuquan was about to open the door, a burst of laughter sounded. Father. Second uncle. Uncle. The four of them turned their heads and hurriedly bowed to salute. It was a middle-aged man wearing a white robe. He was about 1.8 meters tall with a little white hair at the temples, exuding a vicissitude aura. His name was Zhang Qianwu, Zhang Yuquan's father. As Zhang Yuquan's father, his status in the god race was needless to say. He was also considered the backbone of the god race. Why is he here? Long Chun frowned. What is it? Is this person very strong? Qin Feiyong, madman. Li Feng was suspicious. His name is Zhang Qianwu. He's the brother of Zhang Yunshuang's father. As for his strength, he's not bad. However, it's relatively easy for us to take him down. It's just that there might be a huge commotion later. Long Chun secretly transmitted his voice. Doesn't matter. In any case, when we capture Zhang Yunshuang and the others later, it will still cause a big commotion. Hearing this, Li Feng immediately waved his hand. As long as it wasn't someone like the Divine King, there was nothing to worry about. Outside, Zhang Qianwu looked at Zhang Yuquan's group of four and said with a smile, How come you have time to gather together? Zhang Xing changed his playful attitude and replied respectfully, Brother Kuan asked us to come here. He said that he has something to discuss. Hearing this, Zhang Qianwu was surprised. It's not a big deal. Zhang Yuquan waved his hand, looked at Zhang Qianwu suspiciously, and asked, Are you here to look for me? Is there anyone else living here besides you? Zhang Qianwu rolled his eyes, took out an iron box, threw it to Zhang Yuquan and sighed, There's an inheritance inside. Take it and integrate it. There was a look of disappointment in his eyes. Inheritance? Zhang Yuquan was taken aback and quickly caught the iron box. Zhang Xing and Zhang Zishan also immediately stared at the iron box. Their eyes were burning with a trace of jealousy. This was the treatment of a direct descendant. For a branch descendant like them, no matter how hard they worked or how outstanding they were, it was impossible for them to obtain the inheritance of an ultimate profound meaning. What law inheritance is it? Zhang Yunshuang was curious. The law of darkness. Zhang Qianwu smiled. The law of darkness? He had heard of it before. Zhang Yuquan immediately became disinterested and said, Why don't you give me the inheritance of an ultimate law? Zhang Xing and Zhang Zishan looked at each other. Look, what kind of nonsense is this? You picked up an inheritance for free and you actually dislike it? If you dislike it, then give it to us. We don't dislike it. You really don't know how lucky you are. Zhang Yunshuang's face suddenly darkened when she heard this, and she said angrily, Do you think the inheritance of the ultimate profound meaning of an ultimate law is radish or cabbage that can be found everywhere on the street? Didn't you get the inheritance of an ultimate law back then? If you can get it, why can't I? Jiang Yuquan muttered. Jiang Yunshuang was furious. He actually wanted to compete with her? Seeing that Jiang Yunshuang was a little angry, Jiang Qianwu couldn't help but frown and stare at Jiang Yuquan, saying, "Don't be ungrateful. Just this inheritance, I humbled myself and asked for it from the great venerables. If you can be more successful like your cousin, would I be so humble?" Jiang Yuquan shrunk his neck and quickly lowered his head. "Useless thing, you always embarrass me. Learn more from your cousin Jiang Xing and Zishan." Jiang Qianwu snorted coldly and turned to leave with a belly full of anger. "Second uncle, take care." Jiang Yunshuang saluted and then looked at Jiang Yuquan, saying angrily, "You're asking for a scolding?" "Huh?" Jiang Yuquan smiled and turned to open the door. After the door was opened, an empty hall was revealed. Jiang Yuquan's eyes flashed with a touch of suspicion. Where are they? But when he walked into the hall and saw Qin Feiyang and the others standing on both sides of the door, a cold light flashed in his eyes. Jiang Yunshuang and the other two outside the door didn't notice Qin Feiyang and the others at all. They also didn't expect that Qin Feiyang and the others could enter the island without being noticed. There was no doubt. Jiang Yunshuang followed into the hall. At this moment, murderous intent flashed in Jiang Yuquan's eyes. He suddenly turned around and slapped Jiang Yunshuang's lower abdomen. How could she have expected this? She was completely caught off guard. Puff! A mouthful of blood spurted out and her qi shattered on the spot. "What are you doing?" Jiang Yunshuang roared. Jiang Xing and Jiang Zishan, who hadn't entered the hall, also stared at Jiang Yuquan in shock and anger. Whoosh! The next moment, Qin Feiyang and the others jumped out like lightning. "Who is it?" Before Jiang Yunshuang and the others could see clearly, Jiang Xing and Jiang Zishan also screamed at the same time. Their qi shattered on the spot and blood gushed out. Qin Feiyang, Long Chen, Lunatic, Li Feng, Golden-Winged Wolf King, Long Qin. Finally, they also saw Qin Feiyang and the others, and their faces suddenly changed. What was going on? Why were these people here? Wait, it's Jiang Yuquan. The three of them quickly turned around and fled like a bolt from the blue. "Where do you think you're going?" Lunatic, White-Eyed Wolf. Li Feng laughed and went forward like lightning. He grabbed the necks of the three people and twisted them in his hands like chickens. "Jiang Yuquan, you actually colluded with them." Jiang Yunshuang roared. Jiang Yuquan stood respectfully beside Long Chen and said proudly, "It's a great honor to be able to serve Master." "Master?" Jiang Yunshuang was shocked and couldn't help but look at Long Chen. It turned out that he was controlled by Long Chen. "Qin Feiyang. Long Chen. How dare you sneak into the holy land of our god clan?" At this time, an angry roar sounded and resounded in all directions. It was Jiang Qianwu who had returned. He didn't go far before, so after hearing the noise, he immediately came back to check, but he didn't expect to see this scene. This made him shocked and angry. "What? Qin Feiyang, Long Chen, they're on our god's island." Jiang Qianwu's roar startled everyone on the god's island. Impossible! The 10 venerables who were guarding the entrance suddenly stood up, their faces full of disbelief. They opened a space-time tunnel and rushed in like lightning. He had been guarding the entrance and didn't see Qin Feiyang and the others enter the god's island, so he didn't want to believe it. However, when he landed in the sky above the god's mountain and saw Qin Feiyang and the others below, his face suddenly changed and he roared, "Qin Feiyang is attacking, quickly inform the divine king." "It's really Qin Feiyang and the others. How did they get in? Quickly send a message to the divine king." The entire god's island instantly fell into chaos. In front of the lake, Qin Feiyang looked at Jiang Qianwu and the 10 venerables and said in a deep voice, "Li Feng, go to the Black Tortoise world and keep an eye on the 3 of them." "Okay." Li Feng nodded. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and Li Feng and Jiang Yunshuang immediately disappeared. "Shuang!" The 10 venerables roared. All the ultimate mysteries were activated in an instant. The will of the heavenly Tao rolled out, emitting a destructive aura. "If you're not afraid of destroying the god's island, you can attack us." Qin Feiyang sneered at his master, and the 3,000 incarnations were activated. He looked at Long Qin the frenzied one, and the white-eyed wolf and said, "Quickly help." Now, Qin Feiyong and the others were fearless. Because they were in the God Race's territory, they weren't afraid of a fierce battle. But the God Race was different. They had too many things to worry about. Just like when the Divine Kingdom invaded the Sky Cloud world, the people of the Sky Cloud world had to worry about many things. As Qin Feiyong's voice fell, the 3,000 incarnations, Long Qin's group, and Qin Feiyong's group of 4, all took action. The power of various laws emerged, and like a huge wave, it surged towards the mountains and rivers below. Boom! At this moment, not only the sacred mountain, but the God City outside also erupted with a terrifying aura. These were the powerhouses of the God Race. Countless of them. One after another, they rushed over here with murderous intent. The 10 venerables in the sky wanted to take action, but Qin Feiyong's words made them hesitate. This was the God Race's headquarters. If they really fought here, the God's Island would inevitably collapse. It didn't matter if the God's Island collapsed because it could be rebuilt. But the people living here would probably all die once the battle started. It didn't matter if it was a branch descendant. But the problem now was that the people here were the direct descendants of the God Race. If all of them died, it would undoubtedly be a disaster for the God Race. It's really them. What are they doing? Are they robbing us of our crystal veins and spirit veins? Stop them. Bastard, they're going too far. A group of old antiques rushed over, roaring, "If you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." The 3,000 incarnations sneered. The karma law, destruction law, death law, and life and death law's ultimate profundities were instantly activated. The will of the heavenly Tao erupted. Retreat. Seeing this scene, the 10 venerables' eyes trembled, and they hurriedly shouted. The top powerhouses of the God Race were basically brought to Mount Supreme by the Divine King. With the current powerhouses of the God Race, it was impossible to block the 3,000 ultimate profundities of the life and death law. Not to mention, there were also 3,000 ultimate profundities of the karma law, destruction law, and death law. This was enough to destroy the entire God's Island, including all the direct descendants and direct descendants. Chapter 4071. In fact, the 10 supremacies didn't even need to remind them. When the 3,000 incarnations activated their ultimate intents, the God Race antiques had already sensed a fatal threat and ran away. Not to mention them, even the Divine King wouldn't be able to stop Qin Feiyong's 3,000 incarnations. After all, this was someone who had defeated the king. Boom! Crack! At the same time, the divine mountain below continued to collapse. Numerous spirit veins and crystal veins quickly appeared. These were all top-grade spirit veins and crystal veins. There were a total of 700,000 to 800,000 of them. And this wasn't all the spirit veins and crystal veins on the divine mountain. The situation was urgent, and Qin Feiyong and the others didn't have time to snatch all the spirit veins and crystal veins here. Qin Feiyong waved his hand, and hundreds of thousands of spirit veins and crystal veins instantly disappeared without a trace. Then Qin Feiyong shouted, "Let's go." Boom! The 5 supremacies and 3,000 incarnations immediately rushed into the sky with their ultimate intents. The 10 supremacies in the sky saw this scene and quickly retreated. They had to retreat. The 3,000 ultimate intents of the law of life and death were like fully awakened sovereign divine weapons, making one's scalp tingle. Boom! The 3,000 incarnations attacked, and the 1,000 ultimate intents of the law of life and death turned into a torrent that blasted into the sky. With a loud bang, an enchantment appeared and was instantly shattered. This was a barrier that the Divine King had personally set up. But in front of the 1,000 ultimate intents of the law of life and death, it was as vulnerable as a dead tree. Qin Feiyong and the others rushed out of the Divine Island. Swish! At this moment, space-time tunnels appeared. Wisps of terrifying auras burst out from the ground. Among them were the auras of the Divine King, the human race's supremacy, Heavenly Lord Ji, the human race's grand supremacies, and others. They're really fast. But before we leave, we still have to give them a greeting gift. Otherwise, we'll be very impolite. Frenzy chuckled. That's what I'm thinking. Qin Feiyong lifted the corner of his mouth. Boom! After activating the ultimate intent of the 3000 incarnations, there were still 2000 ultimate intents of the law of life and death, 3000 ultimate intents of the law of karma, 3000 ultimate intents of the law of death, and 3000 ultimate intents of the law of destruction. At this moment, all the people on the mythical island had fallen into the abyss of despair. It was the same for the 10 venerables. 11,000 ultimate profundities of ultimate laws, and 2,000 of them were ultimate profundities of the law of life and death. Who could block such a killer move? Whoosh! Finally, the Divine King and the others appeared. When they saw this scene, their expressions changed drastically. Boom! Without hesitation. With the monarch and the other two taking the lead, they attacked one after another. Millions of God clan members of the God Island were also running away crazily. The barrier had been shattered by Qin Feiyang and the others. For them, it was equivalent to creating a glimmer of hope, because if the barrier was not shattered, they could only pass through the only entrance. But now, with the barrier broken, they could also escape from the island in all directions like Qin Feiyang and the others. Rumble. It was accompanied by an earth-shattering sound. Even if the monarch and the others joined forces to block the 11,000 ultimate profundities, the terrifying shockwaves directly tore the mythical island apart. Although millions of God clan members had escaped from the mythical island in time, they were still affected by the shockwaves. More than half of them were killed or injured. For the God clan, it was a great loss. I have another gift. I hope that seniors will kindly accept it. Long Chen's voice came from afar. Not long after his voice fell, a figure broke through the sky like lightning. It was Zhang Yuquan. The monarch and the others were surprised. Zhang Yuquan flew straight to the sky above the mythical island and his physical body exploded on the spot. Kuang! Zhang Qianwu roared, gritting his teeth. The Divine King's face also sank. A sovereign's aura emerged from his body and instantly erased the shockwaves caused by Zhang Yuquan's self-destruction. Obviously, this was the superior-grade sovereign divine weapon of the God clan. In order to deal with Qin Feiyang and the others, the Divine King had brought it to Mount Supreme. However, even if this superior-grade sovereign divine weapon was on the mythical island before, it wouldn't be of much use, because the superior-grade sovereign divine weapon couldn't block the ultimate intents of the 3000 incarnations. Qin Feiyang Longchan, I Zhang Qianwu, swear that I won't rest until I'm dead. Zhang Qianwu's face was filled with grief. The members of the God clan surrounded the void in the distance. Looking at the shattered mythical island, they were also incomparably pained. The Divine King, the 10 sovereigns of the God clan, and a group of old antiques stared in the direction that Qin Feiyang and the others had escaped. They also clenched their hands tightly, their eyes gloomy to the extreme. They never thought that Qin Feiyang and the others' target would be their sacred land. We were too careless. This time it's really luring the tiger away from the mountain. The human race sovereign sighed. The Divine King retracted his gaze and shouted, 10 sovereigns, get over here. The 10 sovereigns walked in front of the Divine King, trembling in fear. What's going on? The Divine King stared coldly at the 10 sovereigns. The 10 sovereigns' eyes trembled. Speak! The Divine King shouted. It's Zhang Yuquan. He brought Qin Feiyang and the others to sneak into the mythical island. The 10 sovereigns hurriedly said, Zhang Yuquan. The Divine King's gaze turned and fell on Zhang Qianwu. Zhang Qianwu's body couldn't help but tremble. He hurriedly said, Lord Divine King, please calm down. From the previous situation, Yuquan was also controlled by Long Chan. He had no choice. Because of him, the God clan suffered such a great calamity. Now you want to clear your name by saying that he had no choice? The Divine King was enraged. Lord, please forgive me. Zhang Qianwu hurriedly knelt in the void. And they kidnapped Zhang Yunshuang, Zhang Xing, and Zhang Zishan. The 10 sovereigns said in pain. What? Hearing this, the Divine King's face suddenly turned pale. The monarch, the human race's supreme, and the others were also shocked. Whether it was Zhang Yunshuang, Zhang Xing, or Zhang Zishan, they were all geniuses of the God clan. It could be said that whether they could defeat people like Qin Feiyang and the demon ancestor in the future depended on them, because they all had the strongest fighting soul. But they didn't expect that they would all be kidnapped by Qin Feiyang and the others. Did they leave their divine souls in advance? The human race's supreme asked. No. The 10 sovereigns shook their heads. Wasn't this asking the obvious? They had already returned to the God clan's sacred ground. Why would they split their divine souls? Splitting the divine soul had advantages and disadvantages. The advantages were that it could save one's life. The disadvantages were that one couldn't enter the state of enlightenment, and it would also affect one's comprehension of the laws. Therefore, generally speaking, they would only split their divine souls when they were fighting to save their lives. It seems that their target is Zhang Yunshuang and the others. In other words, they are here for the strongest fighting soul. The situation is getting worse. The monarch frowned. That's right. Since they came to kidnap Zhang Yunshuang and the others, it means that the owners of the other half of the Eye of Life, the Eye of Evil, and the Eye of Heaven are with them. The human race's supreme nodded. Hearing this, the hearts of everyone present couldn't help but sink. Qin Feiyong's Eye of Heaven and the demon ancestor's Eye of Despair had already displayed a heaven-defying power. Once the Eye of Life, the Eye of Evil, and the Eye of Heaven evolved, then Qin Feiyong's side would have the 5 strongest fighting souls. The 5 strongest fighting souls. It was hard to imagine what kind of disaster the Divine Kingdom would face by then. This is the trouble caused by Jiang Yuquan. Jiang Qianwu, apologize with your death. The Divine King shouted angrily. Lord, please spare my life. Monarch, Lord Supreme, please help me plead for mercy. Jiang Qianwu was terrified. The monarch and the human race's supreme looked at each other and didn't say anything. If it was a small matter, they could help to intercede. But the current situation was no longer a small matter. It was even related to the survival of the Divine Kingdom. They had never expected that they would lose to Jiang Yuquan. Sigh. Lord. Jiang Yuquan is at fault, but he has already self-destructed and died. As for Jiang Qianwu, he is innocent. He doesn't deserve to die. Moreover, with Qin Feiyong's methods, even if they can't find Jiang Yuquan, they will control the other people. We can only blame ourselves for being too careless and being played around by them. The God race's supreme side. They were completely led by Qin Feiyong and the others by the nose. It is because of your indulgence that such a playboy can be raised. The Divine King glared at the Supreme and shouted, Give me the order immediately. From now on, the direct descendants and direct descendants are not allowed to leave the Divine Island without permission. Those who violate this will be killed first and reported later. Yes. All the Supreme nodded. In addition, spread the word that as long as they are willing to return Zhang Yunshuang and the other 2 intact, the God race is willing to give them the inheritance of 3 ultimate laws as compensation. No matter what, we must save the 3 of them. The Divine King said in a deep voice. Yes. All the Supreme nodded and immediately turned to leave. The Supreme Being of the human race glanced at the Divine King, then looked at the monarch and said, It seems that we have to focus on protecting Ji Shaoyi, Lu Zhongtian, and Zhuang Mingyue in the future. We can't let them fall into the hands of Qin Feiyong and the others. Yes. The monarch nodded and pondered for a while. He frowned slightly and said, But then again, Jiang Xing and Jiang Zishan have never fought in the Sky Cloud realm. Even in the Divine Kingdom, not many people know about their fighting souls. So how did Qin Feiyong and the others know about their fighting souls? Yes. How did they know? Could it be a coincidence? Actually, they didn't come here for the strongest fighting souls. The Supreme Being of the human race was slightly stunned and quickly asked. There are so many Sky Prides in the Divine Kingdom, but they didn't look for anyone else but Zhang Yunshuang, Jiang Xing, and Jiang Zishan. Isn't that obvious enough? As for how they know, you have to ask them themselves to find out. In short, don't underestimate them anymore. It was because they underestimated these people again and again that the Divine Kingdom was in such a passive situation now. They had learned their lesson. If they didn't learn their lesson, they would be digging their own graves. Sigh. The monarch sighed and looked at the Divine King. He asked, Do you have enough supreme law inheritance? Not enough. The Divine King shook his head. Then we can't ask the monarch for it now. How about this, if Qin Feiyong and the others really agree to hand them over, you can inform me at that time. I still have 1 supreme law inheritance with me. The monarch said. I also have 1 inheritance left in my hands. However, don't get your hopes up. After fighting with Qin Feiyang and the others for so long, I have some understanding of them. Without special circumstances, they won't easily release a tiger back to the mountain. Even if they are released, I'm afraid they won't be able to keep the fighting souls. The supreme being of the human race shook his head. I know. The divine king nodded, his eyes full of murderous intent. 3 sky prides were captured. 7 to 800,000 spirit veins and crystal veins were lost, and the divine island was destroyed. More than half of the direct descendants and clansmen were killed or injured. Such losses had shaken the foundation of the divine kingdom. Such a blood feud must be repaid with their lives. Chapter 4072. At the same time, West Continent, near Qingtian City, a space-time passage appeared, and 4 men and 1 woman walked out one after another. It was Qin Feiyang's group of 5. At this moment the world was still dark. The surrounding mountains and rivers were extremely quiet. Madman glanced around and laughed. It went smoother than I thought. What a joke. Who was the one who planned this? How could there be an accident? The white-eyed wolf smiled proudly. Madman was stunned. He looked at the white-eyed wolf strangely and asked, "What does this plan have to do with you?" "It seems to be old Qin's plan." "What do you mean by that?" "So I didn't contribute at all. Besides, if we hadn't cooperated with him and entered the South Continent in advance to control Jiang Yuquan, the plan wouldn't have gone so smoothly." The white-eyed wolf was dissatisfied. Okay. No matter whose contribution it is, as long as our plan is completed successfully." Qin Feiyang chuckled. No matter how perfect the plan was, it would be difficult to implement it alone. This was the power of unity. Everyone had contributed to the battle. Madman glanced at the white-eyed wolf with disdain and frowned. "He has been captured, but I feel that." Speaking of this, Madman rubbed his forehead with a rather irritated look. "Do you feel uncomfortable that we're still helping Mu Qing look for his nemesis, and let him reap the benefits of others' hard work despite how he treated us?" Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. "It's more than uncomfortable. My heart is simply suffocating." Madman snorted coldly. As for what contribution Mu Qing had made to the Sky Cloud realm, he could still figure it out. But since entering the Sky Cloud realm, whether it was facing the 3 major races or the Divine Kingdom, Mu Qing hadn't contributed much. This was simply reaping without sowing. The most important thing was, this person's thoughts weren't simple. This made people feel that helping him wasn't worth it. Take it easy. No one is perfect. Furthermore, he has already made a blood oath. Not to mention that it's too far away, at least before we destroy the Divine Kingdom, he won't betray us again. Qin Feiyang patted Madman's shoulder and smiled comfortingly. Long Chun looked at Madman and Qin Feiyang. He pondered for a while and said with a smile, "Actually, Mu Qing's current state of mind is envy and jealousy." "Envious? Jealous?" Long Qin looked at Long Chun suspiciously. "That's right. You've never been to Great Qin, so you don't understand the past between Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing. Actually, the 2 of them have known each other for a long time. At that time, Mu Qing was better than Qin Feiyang in terms of background, support, cultivation, and resources, because the Mu family at that time was very powerful. On the other hand, Qin Feiyang was kicked out of the imperial capital. Therefore, such a gap made Mu Qing maintain a sense of superiority. He felt that he wasn't inferior to Qin Feiyang, and even stronger than Qin Feiyang in the future. But he never expected that the Mu family would be destroyed by Qin Feiyang in the end. At that time his heart must have fallen. Later, he entered the ancient world, and then the Sky Cloud realm. Qin Feiyang's strength became stronger and stronger, and his status became higher and higher. Even people like Madman, White-Eyed Wolf, and Li Feng became people standing at the top of the Sky Cloud realm. But what about Mu Qing? Not only is the gap between him and Qin Feiyang getting bigger and bigger, but he even has to live under the protection of Qin Feiyang. Naturally, he can't accept it. Although I don't have much contact with Mu Qing, I can see that he is a proud and arrogant person, so he can't accept it. He wants to become stronger than Qin Feiyang and the others. This also leads to his current approach becoming a bit radical. Long Chun smiled. So it's like that. Long Qin nodded in realization. As expected of Long Chun, you see it very clearly. Qin Feiyang gave a thumbs up and asked, "Then in your opinion, how can we completely resolve the conflict between us? If it was before, he wouldn't care so much. If they couldn't be friends, then they could be enemies. But now, as more and more things happened, his mentality gradually changed. For example, the grudges with the demon ancestor and Mu Tianyang, it would be best if they could be resolved. In short, it was better to avoid trouble." Long Chun waved his hand and smiled. "In fact, it's very easy to solve this problem. Have a good talk with him and open your hearts to each other. After all, we have been together for so many years. It would be a lie to say that we have no feelings for each other." When Qin Feiyang heard this, he pondered for a while and nodded with a smile. "That's true. Even the grudges between you and me can be resolved. What's the grudge between me and Mu Qing? Can this be generalized? This is because we are magnanimous and don't want to argue with you." Long Qin snorted coldly. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded with a smile on his face. Thinking back to the past, Long Qin's resentment towards them could be described as absolutely irreconcilable. But now, wasn't Long Qin of the same mind as everyone? No matter how unreasonable Mu Qing was, it couldn't be more difficult to deal with than Long Qin. "Let's not talk about this anymore. Let's hurry up and reap our rewards," Lunatic urged, somewhat impatient. Hearing this, everyone's face was full of smiles. The Black Tortoise Realm. Above the Blood Sea in the western region, the sea of blood that stretched as far as the eye could see was swept up by the howling wind, causing huge waves to rise to the sky. Because of the Blood Sea, the sky of the western region was also shrouded in blood clouds all year round. Standing above the Blood Sea was like being in purgatory. It was so harsh. Jiang Yunshuang, Jiang Xing, and Jiang Zishan were suppressed above the Blood Sea and were terrified. Because there were no living creatures here. The blood waves rolled and the smell of blood enveloped the world, innately giving people a sense of fear. Li Feng stood aside and looked at the three of them coldly, but he was extremely worried. He was worried about Qin Feiyang and the others. Whoosh! Suddenly, Qin Feiyang and the others appeared. Li Feng's eyes lit up, and he hurriedly went up to them and asked, "Qin Dage, how is it outside?" Because he was in the Black Tortoise Realm, he didn't know what happened later. "We have left the southern continent." Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. "That's good." Li Feng breathed a sigh of relief. He was afraid that something would happen to Qin Feiyang and the others outside. Jiang Yunshuang looked at Qin Feiyang and the others, and her face suddenly sank, and she roared, "What do you want to do? What do we want to do? Do you still need to ask?" White-Eyed Wolf's face was full of sarcasm. "This time, you didn't leave your divine soul to save your life." Madman's face was also full of ridicule. Jiang Yunshuang panicked. In the Sky Cloud realm, the reason why she dared to be fearless was because she left her divine soul to save her life every time in the god race's sacred land. But now, without her divine soul to save her life, once Qin Feiyang and the others ruthlessly attacked, even a god wouldn't be able to save her. "Are you afraid? Do you still dare to be as arrogant as you were in the Sky Cloud realm?" Long Qin also had a face of ridicule. Back in the Sky Cloud realm, she didn't like this woman. She didn't have any ability, yet she was so arrogant. If it wasn't for her divine soul in the divine kingdom, who knows how many times she would have died. Looking at the expressions of Madman and the others, Jiang Yunshuang trembled, knowing that this time it would be difficult to end well. White-Eyed Wolf stepped forward, reached out and lifted Jiang Yunshuang's chin, and laughed, "Kneel down and beg for mercy, then we can consider letting you go. Don't even think about it." Jiang Yunshuang roared. "Haha." White-Eyed Wolf laughed. Everything was within his expectations. If this woman really knelt down and begged for mercy, he wouldn't be used to it. Suddenly, he rolled his eyes and turned to look at Long Chan, and said with a smile, "Little Chan, this woman is also a person of status. Then I'll let you wrong her, and let her be your concubine." Long Chen's mouth twitched. "What is this?" Long Qin also stared at White-Eyed Wolf angrily, and said, "Why don't you keep her for yourself? You're so stupid. How could this woman be her brother's woman? I don't have such good fortune. Moreover, I'm doing this for your brother's good. Look at your brother, he's not young anymore, but he's still single. Aren't you worried?" White-Eyed Wolf bared his teeth. "Get lost." Long Qin's face darkened. All right. If you don't like it, then I'll reluctantly stay. White-eyed wolf waved his hand helplessly, and looked at Zhang Yunshuang and said, you can be my personal maid from now on. Although you're the divine lady of the divine race, my status is not bad, so it's not a waste of talent. Hearing this, not to mention Long Qin, even Qin Feiyang and the others couldn't help but roll their eyes. What status can you have? Don't flatter yourself, okay? How shameless. As for Zhang Yunshuang, he was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Meanwhile, Jiang Xing and Jiang Zishan were trembling beside him. Although they had long heard of Qin Feiyang and the others' names, this was the first time they had met them face to face. It was not difficult to see that white-eyed wolf and the others' attitude toward Zhang Yunshuang that they were a group of lawless people. If they fell into the hands of these people, they would definitely not have a good ending. Long Chen took a deep breath, looked at Qin Feiyang and said, hurry up and call Mu Tianyang Mu Qing, and your wife here. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. With a thought, Mu Qing, Mu Tianyang, and the mermaid princess immediately appeared beside him. The mermaid princess and the others were a little suspicious at first, but when they felt the hostility, they immediately understood and immediately looked at Zhang Yunshuang and the others. As for Zhang Yunshuang and the others, when they heard the conversation between Long Chen and Qin Feiyang, they were also a little confused at first. However, just as the mermaid princess and the other two arrived, they felt the hostility from the three of them and they instantly understood. Zhang Yunshuang originally thought that Qin Feiyang and the others sneaked into the island and kidnapped her to take revenge for the personal grudge in the Tianyun realm. Now she understood. This had nothing to do with personal grudges. They were here for the strongest fighting soul. But the question was, how did these people know about their fighting souls? Her eye of life could be explained, because she had opened it when they fought in the Tianyun realm. But Jiang Xing and Jiang Zishan's fighting souls had never been opened in the Tianyun realm. Mu Tianyang looked at Jiang Xing for a while, then looked at Qin Feiyang and the others and said with a smile, thank you for your hard work. As long as you don't bite the hand that feeds you. Madman snorted coldly. This sentence made Mu Tianyang extremely embarrassed. But the most embarrassed one was Mu Qing, because he had already done something that repaid kindness with ingratitude. Moreover, he also knew that Madman's words weren't said for Mu Tianyang, but specifically for him to hear. Qin Feiyang glanced at Mu Qing, then looked at Mu Tianyang and the mermaid princess, and said with a smile, you guys start first. Then, he looked at Mu Qing and said, I want to talk to you. After that he turned and walked away. Chapter 4073. Mu Qing's eyelids twitched. Why did he ask him to have a private chat at this time? Did he want to threaten him with the all-seeing eye? Go. Don't think so much. Qin Feiyang is not such a person. Mu Tianyang patted him on the shoulder and smiled encouragingly. Mu Qing was his descendant, and he had watched him grow up, so he could tell what Mu Qing was thinking at a glance. Okay. Mu Qing summoned up his courage and turned to walk toward Qin Feiyang. You can't do this. We are the prodigies of the god race, and we have the divine king's protection. Zhang Yunshuang and the other two were already panicking to the extreme. Haha, still so naive? We are not even afraid of the divine king himself, so why would we be afraid of her protection? White-eyed wolf laughed. It seemed that these so-called prodigies of the divine kingdom were nothing more than this. Thinking back, how arrogant was Zhang Yunshuang in the sky cloud realm. But now, what was the difference between him and an ordinary person? On the other side, Qin Feiyang stopped. Seeing this, Mu Qing hurriedly stopped and stood in the void behind him with his head lowered, extremely nervous. Qin Feiyang slowly turned around, looked at Mu Qing and sighed. I really don't know when we have become so distant. Huh. Mu Qing looked up at Qin Feiyang. What did this mean? Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and bowed. I sincerely apologize for suppressing you in the soul-sealing valley last time. I hope you can understand. This? Mu Qing was completely dumbfounded. Apologize to him? What did this person want to do? We have known each other since the Forgotten Continent. After so many years, I still remember the scenes of the past. To be honest, I am indeed very angry about the last time you schemed against Dong Zhengyang. After all, Dong Zhengyang saved you. Think about it, if you were Dong Zhengyang and someone schemed against you like this, what would you do? I'm afraid you would turn hostile on the spot. Qin Feiyang sighed. Mu Qing was silent. If it was really him, it would definitely be a fight to the death, and there would be no discussion with anyone who came. Back then, when we were in Great Qin and the Forgotten Continent, we were friends and fought side by side, but we were also enemies and plotted against each other. But that's all in the past. This journey has not been easy for either you or me. Why are we still harping on the past? Look at Long Chan and Long Qin. Even they were able to let go, so why can't you? Could it be that you are inferior to them? Qin Feiyang said. These words were obviously meant to provoke him. Mu Qing was indignant when she heard that. I know. You are upset because you see me and the white-eyed wolf getting stronger and stronger, but you have to know that we have sacrificed much more than you over the years. Don't misunderstand. I am not showing off in front of you. I am just stating a fact. Actually, you don't have to feel so much pressure. Look at the demon ancestor. Wasn't he also at odds with me? But now look at how I treated him. Whether it's you or the people around me, I don't have any selfish motives. When I become stronger, I will not forget you. There is a good saying, it is better to squash enmity than keep it alive. Now we might as well open our hearts and say what is in our hearts directly to put an end to it completely. After all, it is uncomfortable to hide it in the heart, right? Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Mu Qing looked at Qin Feiyang, pondered for a while and asked back then, Qin Yuan hid it from you and resurrected us. Were you very angry? This matter, I don't deny it. At that time, I was indeed very angry. However, after all these years, I have already let it go. After all, we have experienced too much. Thinking back to the past, we were all blank pieces of paper, but now we are all filled with vicissitudes. Qin Feiyang deeply sighed. The experiences of this life made him feel very tired, so there were many things that he did not want to pursue. Firstly, he did not have the energy. Secondly, he did not want to live in the past. Hearing this, Mu Qing looked up at the sky and nodded as she sighed. That's right, we're no longer who we were in the past. Before, we were all high-spirited youths, but now in Great Qin and the Forgotten Continent, we've most likely become old antiques. Be more confident. Don't say probably. Qin Feiyang wanted to be confident. Time passed so quickly. Thinking back to the past, it was as if it had just happened yesterday. Mu Qing bitterly laughed and let out a long breath. Looking at Qin Feiyang, she said, I accept your apology, and I also sincerely apologize to you. It was all because of my jealousy that I did these stupid things. To tell you the truth, when I was in Soul Ceiling Valley, I was thinking, why did I become like this? Although I, Mu Qing, am not a good person, I still have a conscience. Returning kindness with enmity. Isn't that what I have always hated the most? You really hit the nail on the head just now. It's jealousy. Jealousy is really a scary thing. Once a person is jealous, they will lose their rationality and become unscrupulous. Mu Qing shook her head and sighed, her face full of regret. Is that so? I thought that you came out of Soul Ceiling Valley because you hated us, so you didn't come to the Devil's Land. Qin Feiyang shook his head. What right do I have to hate you? I don't have the face to face you, especially Dong Zhongyang. Compared to his open-mindedness and generosity, I am like a villain. I really want to find a hole to hide in. Mu Qing sighed. Don't think so much. Dong Zhongyang won't take it to heart. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and smiled. Sure enough. Only by opening their hearts to each other could they know each other's true thoughts. Whether he takes it to heart or not, I owe him an apology. I will deal with this matter myself. You don't have to worry. However, the grudge between the line of the Qin and the line of the Mu is the biggest problem. Back then, your ancestor Qin Badian and my ancestor Mu Tianyang were right and wrong. We juniors can't judge whether they were right or wrong. Only when they let go of the past grudges can our two clans be considered to be truly reconciled. Mu Qing said, we don't have to worry about these things. My ancestor and Mu Tianyang will deal with it themselves. We just don't want to cause trouble for them. Qin Feiyang stretched out his hand and said with a smile, since we have made things clear, let's have a little ceremony. Shake hands, let go of the past, and face the future together. Mu Qing couldn't help but laugh. She raised her hand and the two of them shook hands. This also meant that the enmity between them had been completely buried. By the way, thank you for helping me find my old enemy. Mu Qing said with a smile. We are all partners who have gone through life and death together. It's only right for us to help each other. And this time, if there are no accidents, you Mu Tianyang and Dong Zhengyang will all receive the inheritance of the ultimate profound of the supreme law. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. Really? Mu Qing's eyes lit up. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded and said with a faint smile, Zhang Yunshuang and the other two have all mastered the ultimate profound of the supreme law, and their talents are not bad. The Divine King will not watch them die. You mean the Divine King will use the ultimate profound of the supreme law to exchange for them? Mu Qing was bewildered. Besides the inheritance of the ultimate profound of the supreme law, what else can tempt us? Moreover, Zhang Yunshuang and the other two have mastered the ultimate profound of the supreme law. Qin Feiyang chuckled. Mu Qing pondered for a moment and said with a smile, not only do you want to get the inheritance of the ultimate profound of the supreme law from the Divine King, but you also want to deprive Zhang Yunshuang and the other two of their ultimate profound of the supreme law. You are really ruthless. Why be polite to the god race? However, it won't be easy to get Zhang Yunshuang and the other two to willingly strip away their ultimate profound of the supreme law. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Wang Chuan was the best example. If it weren't for the threat of his family's lives, he would rather die than strip away the ultimate profound of the supreme law of destruction. It's okay. You have to believe in the white-eyed wolf's methods. Mu Qing smiled sinisterly. That's true. Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled. The white-eyed wolf's methods of torturing people were still quite good. He said go. After the all-seeing eye evolves, it will be more advantageous for us. Because then we will be able to know the whereabouts of the Divine King and the others at any time. Okay. Mu Qing nodded and turned to leave quickly. Whoosh! Watching Mu Qing leave quickly, Qin Feiyang heaved a sigh of relief. Whether it was Long Chan and his sister, Mu Qing and Mu Tianyang, they had always been a huge burden to him. As the children of the Ice Dragon, it was harder to kill Long Chan and his sister. If he didn't kill them, it would be a hidden danger and pressure. Mu Qing, Mu Tianyang and the demon ancestor could be easily eliminated, but Dong Zhengyang's attitude of protecting them was also very firm. Moreover, this was also Yuan Bo's intention, because it was Yuan Bo who protected the three of them. At the same time, Mu Qing and the others who had the strongest fighting soul, once they were allowed to grow, they would also be formidable opponents that couldn't be ignored. Just imagine, facing such a potential formidable opponent, who could do it without feeling burdened? Could be said that no one could. But it was all good now. Basically, it was all settled. He believed that one day in the future, everyone would be able to rely on each other. This team would also become stronger and stronger. Swoosh! Qin Feiyang left the Black Tortoise world alone, changed his appearance, and lurked outside Qingtan City. No way! They actually went to the South Continent, killed their way into the sacred land of the God Clan, and kidnapped the three supreme talents of Zhang Yunshu? Why not? This news was spread by the God Clan personally, and in order to rescue Zhang Yunshuang and the others, the Divine King even prepared the inheritance of the three ultimate profound laws. Then didn't Qin Feiyang and the others make a big profit? Yes. I really envy them. Don't envy them, they also need to have the ability to do this. They broke into the Deity Island and managed to escape alive. This ability is not something that you and I can compare with. I really didn't expect them to have such ability. This time, I'm afraid our Divine Kingdom will face a great disaster. Chapter 4074. Qin Feiyang blended into the crowd and silently listened to everyone's discussion. There was a smile on his face the entire time. As expected for Zhang Yunshuang and the other two, the Divine King was willing to pay a huge price. After inquiring about the news, Qin Feiyang lurked near Mount Supreme to check on its movements. Mount Supreme's current security was quite tight. Not only was there a giant barrier protecting it, but the 10 sovereigns were also personally overseeing it. For 2 whole days, Qin Feiyang still couldn't find a chance to sneak in. He had no choice but to temporarily give up and enter the Black Tortoise world. 2 days outside, 10,000 years had passed in the Black Tortoise world. Mu Qing, Mu Tianyang, and the Mermaid Princess battle souls had all been successfully merged. Moreover, the Law of Darkness inheritance that Jiang Qianwu gave to Jiang Yuquan had also fallen into Long Chen's hands. Long Chan was also very generous and directly gave it to the madman. Once the madman merged with this law of darkness inheritance, it was equivalent to mastering the 6 ultimate mysteries. They were the law of space, law of destruction, law of death, law of thunder, law of slaughter, and law of darkness. Unfortunately, 3 of them were ordinary ultimate mysteries. Otherwise, the madman would be able to master the will of the heavenly Tao. And the will of the heavenly Tao required the 6 ultimate mysteries of the strongest laws. At this moment, there was no one in the tea garden. Qin Feiyang stood in front of the tea table and leisurely brewed a cup of tea. He wasn't in a hurry at all, because the ones who should be anxious were the divine king and the others. While drinking tea, he released his perception. The madman was merging with the inheritance. The mermaid princess was cultivating in seclusion. White-eyed wolf Li Feng, Mu Qing, and Mu Tianyang were in the soul-sealing valley. As for Jiang Yunshuang and the other 2, there was no doubt that they were suppressed in the soul-sealing valley and were in despair. But Long Chan and Long Qin were actually in seclusion again. Moreover, the 2 of them emitted an aura of law that hadn't been there before. Could it be that both of them were fusing the inheritance of the ultimate Upanishad? After a moment of observation, Qin Feiyang was finally able to confirm that they were indeed fusing the ultimate profound inheritance. True enough, it was indeed different to have a powerful father. Whatever legacy he wanted, he just had to ask. It was no wonder that Long Chan was so generous as to gift Li Feng an inheritance, because he did not lack inheritances at all. It was just that in the past, he wanted to rely on his own ability to comprehend, so he did not fuse with these inheritances. However, the situation was different now. Following the monarch, the divine king, and the human race's supreme being made their moves one after another, all of them displaying powerful strength. If he did not fuse with these inheritances and quickly grasp the will of the heavenly Tao, he would not be able to fight against these people at all. A short while later, Qin Feiyang withdrew his perception. He also began to ponder over the ultimate profound that he had grasped. The laws of life and death, the laws of life, the laws of destruction, the laws of karma, and the laws of light. Currently, he had already grasped 6 ultimate profundities. Aside from the law of light, the rest were all supreme laws. The law of life and death had surpassed the limits of the supreme laws. As for the law of wind, the law of force, the law of slaughter, the law of war, and the law of thunder, their current strength was the supreme profound and also the 5th profound. It seemed that he had to work harder and comprehend all the ultimate profound of these laws. However, now that he had already grasped the will of the heavenly Tao, when he comprehended the ultimate profound of the 6 supreme laws, would the will of the heavenly Tao descend again? When the 2 will of the heavenly Tao superimpose, would it be stronger than the current will of the heavenly Tao? This was the question that he was thinking about. Logically speaking, although he had already grasped the will of the heavenly Tao, when he comprehended the ultimate profound of the 6 supreme laws, another will of the heavenly Tao should descend. However, after all, there was no precedent. Whether the will of the heavenly Tao would descend in the future or not, it was hard to say now. Let's talk about it in the future. Qin Feiyang shook his head. The ultimate profound, whether it was an ordinary law or in supreme law, naturally the more the better. In short, he did not reject anyone. Not long after, White-eyed wolf Li Feng, Mu Qing, and Mu Tianyang returned from Soul-Sealing Valley. How was it? Qin Feiyang poured tea one by one and asked with a smile. Their bones are very hard. They would rather die than be willing to strip off their ultimate profound. White-eyed wolf was extremely angry. Li Feng, Mu Qing, and Mu Tianyang were also helpless. Jiang Xing and Jiang Zishan each grasped the ultimate profound of 2 supreme laws. Jiang Yunshuang grasped the ultimate profound of 3 supreme laws. In total, there were 7 ultimate profound meanings. To them, it was completely possible to create an expert with the will of the heavenly Tao. For example, Mu Qing and Mu Tianyang, now that their fighting souls had evolved, if they were to grasp the will of the heavenly Tao, then their strength would undoubtedly skyrocket. However, in advance, Jiang Yunshuang and the other 2 had to be willing to hand it over. Even you can't do anything? Qin Feiyang looked at White-eyed Wolf in surprise. Even a place like Soul-Sealing Valley can't make them surrender. What else can I do? White-eyed Wolf rubbed his forehead, his face full of helplessness. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. He said indifferently, "This is not your style. You have to bring out all of your shameless character. Get lost. White-eyed Wolf's face darkened. What was he talking about? Who was shameless? Qin Feiyong laughed involuntarily, took a sip of tea, and looked at the four of them saying, "But I have good news." What good news? The four of them were curious. Qin Feiyong said, "The Divine King has made an offer to exchange the ultimate profound of 3 supreme laws for the lives of Zhang Yunshuang and the other 2. Really? Mu Qing and Mu Tianyang's eyes lit up. Right now Qin Feiyong had already mastered the will of heavenly Tao. Long Chen and Long Qin. With Ice Dragon as their backing, they could get any legacy they wanted. The Fiend Ancestor, Frenzy, White-Eyed Wolf, and Li Feng already had enough legacies. They were only short of unlocking the seals. Therefore Mu Qing and Mu Tianyang were the most anxious. Of course Dong Zhengyang was also the most anxious. However, in comparison, Dong Zhengyang's character was calmer, and he did not fight for the inheritance. Yes. Qin Feiyong nodded. That's good. As long as Zhang Yunshuang and the other 2 hand over their ultimate profound, together with the 3 ultimate profound of the Divine King, there will be a total of 12 legacies. Just enough for Mu Qing and I to master the will of heavenly Tao. Mu Tianyang was extremely excited. Qin Feiyong nodded, but then he shook his head and sighed. Don't be happy too early. Why? Mu Tianyang looked at him suspiciously. First of all, the Divine King's condition is to return the jade to its rightful owner. What do you mean by returning the jade to its rightful owner? It means returning it to her in perfect condition. But now, the 3 of their fighting souls have been snatched by you. How can you return the jade to its rightful owner? Secondly, don't forget the condition for unlocking the seal. You have to kill the Divine Kingdom's elites before Long Qin will help White-Eyed Wolf, and the rest unlock the seal on the iron box. If we release Zhang Yunshuang and the other 2 now, White-Eyed Wolf, Li Feng, and Frenzy will have worked for nothing. Qin Feiyong explained. That's true. Mu Tianyang nodded. Isn't there a way to get the best of both worlds? For example, we can get the ultimate meaning of Zhang Yunshuang and the rest and the 3 inheritances from the Divine King, kill Zhang Yunshuang and the other 2, and unlock the seal on the 3 iron boxes for White-Eyed Wolf and the rest. Mu Qing frowned. I've thought of a way to get the best of both worlds, but it's not easy. Qin Feiyong shook his head. How about this? White-Eyed Wolf's eyes lit up. He looked at everyone and said, "Can we do something during the exchange of hostages?" Do something during the exchange of hostages? Qin Feiyong and the other 3 were stunned. They couldn't help but look at White-Eyed Wolf with anticipation. White-Eyed Wolf said excitedly, for example, we can change our faces and pretend to be Zhang Yunshuang and the other 2. After the exchange is completed, we can directly turn against the Divine King. Qin Feiyong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I thought it was a good idea. Can't we do that? White-Eyed Wolf frowned. Of course not. Zhang Yunshuang and the other 2 have the mark of the God Clan. How can you impersonate the mark of the God Clan? Even if we can fake the mark of the God Clan, the Divine King will be able to tell at a glance. Because the mark of the God Clan is bestowed by her. Qin Feiyong was helpless. That makes sense. White-Eyed Wolf pondered for a while and said, then why don't we return Zhang Yunshuang and the other 2 to her first? After we get the 3 inheritances, we'll find a chance to kill them. That's the only way for now. However, it's really difficult to achieve the condition of returning them intact. The reason why the Divine King cares about them is firstly because of their fighting souls, and secondly because they have mastered the ultimate meaning of the ultimate law. Now that their fighting souls have been taken away, if their ultimate meaning is taken away as well, I'm afraid the 3 of them won't have much value in the eyes of the Divine King. Qin Feiyong shook his head and sighed. From what you're saying, it seems that we can't have it both ways. White-Eyed Wolf pursed his lips. Yes. Qin Feiyong nodded and pondered for a while. Then he smiled and said, let's give it a try first. If we can get the 3 inheritances from the Divine King, that would be the best. If we can't get them, we won't force it. Anyway, for us this is already a big profit. Okay. The 4 of them nodded. Qin Dage. Young Master. This time, Fire Lotus flew over with Pai Lupi and Theta Wang. The 3 of them were in high spirits. How is it? Qin Feiyong looked at the 3 of them and smiled. The three of them were in charge of the arrangement of the spirit veins and crystal veins that they had looted during this time. Robbing was easy, but making arrangements was a very complicated matter. 51 cities plus the spirit veins and crystal veins of the god race, there are more than 30 million of them. Currently, the spirit veins and crystal veins of the Black Tortoise world have reached a state of saturation. Fire Lotus smiled. The happiest one is still that little brat. The Black Tortoise world is growing faster and faster by the day. Pai Lupi and Theta Wang spoke one after another. It has reached saturation. Qin Feiyong was slightly taken aback and asked, that means for the time being, we don't have to worry about the spirit veins and crystal veins. You can't say that. The little brat said that the more the better. Fire Lotus smiled. Qin Feiyong shook his head and laughed. This little brat was more like a bandit. Fire Lotus continued. And the little brat also said that it won't be long before the castle evolves into a mid-level dominator weapon. Really? Qin Feiyong was shocked. White-Eyed Wolf and Li Feng also looked at Fire Lotus in surprise. Yes. Fire Lotus nodded. That's great. White-Eyed Wolf was extremely excited. His eyes filled with anticipation. As long as the castle evolved into a mid-level dominator weapon, it meant that the Black Tortoise world's origin energy had the ability to create a mid-level dominator weapon. At that time, the Black Tortoise world's strength would also increase greatly, because the Black Tortoise world's strength was the same as the castle's. If the castle evolved into a mid-level dominator weapon, the Black Tortoise world would be able to block the invasion of mid-level dominator weapons. If it could block mid-level dominator weapons, it would naturally be able to block the ultimate profundities of the strongest laws. In other words, in the future, even if the Black Tortoise world was exposed to the outside world, except for mid-level dominator weapons, no profundities or low-level dominator weapons would be able to harm the Black Tortoise world. Chapter 4075. Could be said that the evolution of the ancient castle had great benefits for the entire Black Tortoise world. Then, is there anyone in the Black Tortoise world who has comprehended the profundities of laws? Qin Feiyong asked. There are, but very few. According to our statistics, there are less than 100 people, and they have just comprehended the profundities of laws, Pai Lupi said. That's not bad. Qin Feiyong nodded with a smile. After all, the Black Tortoise world's starting point was too low. It would take a long time to catch up with a place like the Sky Cloud world. White-Eyed Wolf asked, have you placed the profundities of laws in the various forbidden areas and divine treasures? Of course. How could we dare to neglect the young master's orders? And there are already more than a dozen people who were lucky enough to obtain the profundities of laws. I believe that one day, our Black Tortoise world will surpass the Sky Cloud world. After all, the Sky Cloud world doesn't have as many profundities of laws as our Black Tortoise world. Theta Wang said, her face full of expectation. We will. And I believe that our Black Tortoise world will have many cultivation geniuses. You too must remember these people and focus on nurturing them. But you can't raise them like flowers in a greenhouse, understand? Qin Feiyong looked at the two and asked. Understood. In any case, you can leave the matters of the Black Tortoise world to us. Pai Lupi and Theta Wang nodded. With your help, of course, I can rest assured. Qin Feiyong chuckled. He turned his head to look at Huolian and warned, don't be so busy all day. You should improve your strength more. I know. Fire Lotus nodded. Qin Feiyong took a sip of tea and smiled. All right then, let's discuss how to make Zhang Yunshuang and the others willingly hand over the profundities. This was the main point. If they weren't strong enough, they wouldn't be able to protect the Black Tortoise world. If they couldn't protect the Black Tortoise world, no matter how good the resources were, it would be useless. Mu Tianyang pondered for a while, then looked at the White-Eyed Wolf and said with a smile, I'll have to rely on you for this. White-Eyed Wolf's face darkened. Why didn't he think of him when something good happened? Qin Feiyong pondered for a moment and smiled. Actually, sometimes it's better to be simple and crude. How simple and crude? Everyone was doubtful. Qin Feiyong was just about to speak when he suddenly seemed to have some misgivings. He turned to look at Fire Lotus and said with a smile, why don't you leave us for a moment? I'm sure you don't have any good ideas. Fire Lotus looked at him with disdain, then got up and left quickly. Qin Feiyong smiled awkwardly and gestured to White-Eyed Wolf and the others. Everyone immediately gathered around, including Pai Lupi and Theta Wang. My idea is, Qin Feiyong mumbled to them. A moment passed. White-Eyed Wolf and the others all looked at Qin Feiyong in shock. Mu Qing was the first to come back to his senses. The corner of his mouth kept twitching, and he said speechlessly, "Why do I feel that you're the most shameless one? You only know now? He's the most shameless one. He's just good at pretending." White-Eyed Wolf looked at him with disdain. Ahem. Qin Feiyong coughed and glared at White-Eyed Wolf and Mu Qing. He said, "Don't you know how to talk? I'm doing this for your own good. Don't take my kindness for granted." He. Mu Qing smiled wretchedly and nodded. "Although it's a little shameless, it's a good idea. White-Eyed Wolf, shall we go now?" "Sure." White-Eyed Wolf nodded and immediately got up and rushed to Soul Ceiling Valley. Li Feng and Mu Qing immediately followed. "Should we also go and take a look?" Mu Tianyang looked at Qin Feiyong. "No need. We'll just watch from here." Qin Feiyong waved his hand, and the image of Soul Ceiling Valley immediately appeared in the void in front of them. Soul Ceiling Valley. The stench was overwhelming. There were no traces of living creatures within a radius of 10,000 miles. Everyone regarded this place as a forbidden area that they absolutely could not set foot in. At this moment, inside the valley, Jiang Yunshuang and the other two were suppressed inside like dead dogs. Not far away, Bing Runing looked at this scene with a gloating face. After being suppressed here for so many years, she had long become numb. It was a good thing that someone came to accompany her. Bing Runing walked over and asked, "You're also from the Divine Kingdom, right?" "How do you know?" Jiang Yunshuang frowned. "Because the mark between your eyebrows is the mark of the God race. A group of people was suppressed here, and two of them, Jiang Chen and Jiang Xing, also had such a mark." Bing Runing said, "What? When they were suppressed here, you were already here?" Jiang Xing was surprised. "Yes." Bing Runing nodded. "Wait." Jiang Yunshuang seemed to have thought of something and asked, "Are you the princess of the Ice Phoenix race? You still know me?" Bing Runing was surprised. "I heard about you from Jiang Chen and Jiang Xing. What kind of deep hatred do you have with Qin Feiyong and the others? Why did they suppress you here for so long?" Jiang Yunshuang was suspicious. "Blood feud. Absolutely irreconcilable." Bing Runing said word by word, her eyes full of resentment. Jiang Yunshuang and the other two looked at each other in disbelief. "Originally, I could have become a genius and dominated an era, even stronger than you, the geniuses of the Divine Kingdom, but because of Qin Feiyong and the demon ancestor, I became like this. I hate it." Bing Runing screamed as if she had gone crazy. Hearing this, the three didn't take it seriously. It wasn't like they didn't know the situation of the Sky Cloud realm. How powerful could a princess of the Ice Dragon race be? She actually dared to say that she was stronger than them, the geniuses of the Divine Kingdom. Wait, demon ancestor? Suddenly Jiang Yunshuang's pupils shrank. Why did they mention the demon ancestor? One had to know. Whether it was the lunatic, the white-eyed wolf, Long Chan or Long Qin, they were all outstanding people. But these people didn't mention them, but the demon ancestor. Could it be? Jiang Yunshuang was surprised. "You are the owner of the Eye of Despair?" "That's right. I am the other half of the owner of the Eye of Despair. If I snatch the Eye of Despair from the demon ancestor, then tell me, am I better than you?" Bing Runing smiled proudly. The three looked at each other and couldn't help but sigh. "What?" Bing Runing was puzzled. "We have the same fate." Jiang Zishan sighed. "What?" Bing Runing was shocked and asked, "Are you also?" "That's right. We are the owners of the Eye of Life, the Eye of Evil, and the Eye of Heaven. But now our battle souls have been snatched by them," Jiang Xing said. "Haha." Hearing this, Bing Runing laughed. "What are you laughing at?" Jiang Xing raised his eyebrows. "I'm laughing at your uselessness. The dignified geniuses of the Divine Kingdom actually had their battle souls snatched by them. What a joke." Bing Runing's face was full of ridicule, completely undisguised. The three glared at Bing Runing. "Not bad, you're even chatting." This time, accompanied by a mocking laughter, the white-eyed wolf Li Feng and Mu Qing descended from the sky. Bing Runing looked up at the white-eyed wolf and the other two and sneered. Thanks to you, you sent me a few people to relieve my boredom. Now she was not afraid of anything. She even wanted to kneel and beg for death. You're welcome. After all, it's been quite boring to stay here alone for so many years. The white-eyed wolf smiled playfully. It's quite boring. But last time, Mu-Ching, when you came, I didn't have a good chat with you. What's going on? Qin Feiyong suppressed you in the soul-sealing valley. Why are you with them now? In order to survive, you don't even care about your dignity? Bing Runing pointed the conflict at Mu-Ching, obviously to drive a wedge between them. But to this, Mu-Ching just smiled disdainfully. She wanted to drive a wedge between them with such a childish trick? Haha. People without backbone are worse than pigs and dogs. Bing Runing laughed and retreated to the side, because she knew that there would be a good show to watch. Who are you calling worse than pigs and dogs? Mu-Ching was annoyed. She was really insatiable. Li Feng reached out to stop Mu-Ching, looked at Bing Runing contemptuously, and said lightly, "Don't talk nonsense with her. She can't wait for you to kill her so that she can be free. So you're asking for death. I'm sorry, but I won't do such a good thing. You can live the rest of your life here peacefully." Mu-Ching sneered. Bing Runing glared at Li Feng angrily. He really liked to meddle in other people's business. Li Feng ignored her directly, looked at Zhang Yunshuang and the other two, and said, "I'll ask you one last time. Do you want to hand over your ultimate meaning? Don't even think about it." Zhang Yunshuang and the other two's faces were full of ridicule. "Okay, let's see how long you can last." Li Feng smiled playfully, raised his hand and turned in the air, and the three immediately flew out of the soul-sealing valley uncontrollably. The white-eyed wolf and the other two immediately plugged their nostrils. It was too smelly. It was simply disgusting. Zhang Yunshuang sneered. "Even a place like this can't make us submit. What other means do you have? Bring it on." "As you wish." The white-eyed wolf lifted the corner of his mouth, looked at Li Feng, and smiled flatteringly. "That you'll have to suffer a little. Take off their clothes and parade them through the streets." "What? Take off their clothes? Parade them through the streets?" When the three heard this, their faces couldn't help but turn pale. Especially Zhang Yunshuang and Zhang Zishan. They were women. How could they bear such humiliation? Although being suppressed in the soul-sealing valley was also a kind of humiliation to them, after all, no one was watching. But to take off their clothes and parade them through the streets was a different concept. Who could afford to lose face in front of so many people? "Are you guys demons?" Zhang Zishan roared. "Yes, we are demons." Li Feng laughed, raised his hand and waved. A slaughter law emerged, enveloping the three of them. With a puff, the clothes on the three's bodies were all torn to shreds. "No!" the three of them exclaimed, and hurriedly covered their important parts. Especially Zhang Yunshuang and Zhang Zishan. Their beautiful faces turned pale. "There are many people in the Black Tortoise realm. I believe everyone is very interested in you three prodigies of the God Clan. Of course, this is just the appetizer. When we travel through the Black Tortoise realm, we will take you to the West Continent, South Continent, North Continent, East Continent, and even to the God Clan's sacred land, the Island of Gods. Let them see with their own eyes how pathetic the prodigies they usually admire are now. Especially Zhang Yunshuang and Zhang Zishan. In everyone's eyes, you must be goddess-like figures. I believe many men would be happy to see you like this." The white-eyed wolf's face was full of ridicule. Yes, yes, yes. We're letting them feast their eyes. Maybe the men of the divine kingdom will thank us. Otherwise, where can we find such an opportunity?" Li Feng and Mu-Ching nodded and laughed. Zhang Yunshuang and Zhang Zishan's faces were pale, and they trembled. They might as well kill them. Chapter 4076. Let's go. Let's go to Zhongzhou first. The white-eyed wolf opened a space-time tunnel. Li Feng chuckled and swept the three of them toward the space-time tunnel. "No, please, I beg you, just kill us." Zhang Zishan's face was as pale as a sheet. Just thinking about how she was going to be surrounded by countless people in such a manner, she couldn't help but feel her scalp tingle. "It's not up to you if you want to die." Li Feng sneered. They were about to enter the space-time tunnel. Zhang Zishan could no longer hold back the fear in her heart and shouted, "I'll give it to you. I'll also give you my ultimate profoundness." I only ask that you give me a quick death. Jiang Zishan's compromise completely destroyed Jiang Xing's last line of defense. The white-eyed wolf and the others looked at each other and smiled. It would have been better if they had done this earlier. They had to force them to use this method. Li Feng let go of the two of them. The two of them were unwilling to give up and forcibly extracted their ultimate profoundness. Jiang Xing's was the space-time law and the karma law. Jiang Zishan's was the time law and the devouring law. As the two ultimate profoundness were extracted, their cultivation instantly fell to the greater mastery sovereign realm. Their faces were pale. Looking at the four ultimate profoundness, Mu Qing's eyes shone brightly. This was not an ordinary law, but an ultimate law. Not to mention for ultimate profoundness, even if it was only one ultimate law, as long as it was successfully integrated, it could instantly make a person soar to the sky. Below, Bing Runing looked at this scene with envy, jealousy, and hatred. In just a short while they had obtained for ultimate profoundness. If it were her, she would wake up smiling. How hateful! How could the people of the Divine Kingdom be so useless? Last time Ryuko's group, and now Zhang Yunshuang's group were the geniuses of the Divine Kingdom. But in front of Qin Feiyang and the others they were like trash. She originally thought that Qin Feiyang and the others would die in the hands of the people of the Divine Kingdom sooner or later. Then, she would be able to watch a good show. But now it seemed that she was just wishful thinking. Haha, thank you, thank you. The white-eyed wolf laughed and put away the four ultimate mysteries. He turned to Zhang Yunshuang and said, "What about you? Do you want to hand over the ultimate profound or take you for a stroll?" Zhang Yunshuang's face darkened. He gloomily looked at the white-eyed wolf, then at Mu Qing and Li Feng. He said bitterly, "You'll suffer retribution sooner or later." After saying that, with a thought the three great laws appeared. These were the laws of time, the laws of destruction, and the laws of death that she had mastered. His cultivation instantly dropped to the small success sovereign realm. Seeing this, the smile on the white-eyed wolf's face became bigger. He grabbed the three ultimate Upanishads and bared his teeth. "I don't know if it's retribution or not. I only know that this time I will take it back with interest." Jiang Yunshuang clenched his fists. The white-eyed wolf disdainfully looked at Li Feng and said, "Since they have already handed over the inheritance, then don't make things difficult for them. Find them some clothes to wear and treat them well." The word treat was especially emphasized. "Understood." Li Feng smirked. "Devil's Land. Tea Garden. Done." Qin Feiyang chuckled. With a wave of his hand, the image in the void dissipated. Mu Tianyang's face was also full of smiles. "Young master, your method is still the most effective." Pai Lupi and Theta Wang laughed. Although it was a bit shameless, the effect was really good. It immediately took care of the three of them. People in the world actually have weaknesses. The weakness of Zhang Yunshuang and the other two is that their self-esteem is too strong. Letting them appear in front of people naked is definitely more painful than torturing them. So, if you encounter such a situation in the future, you have to take the right medicine. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. "Understood." Pai Lupi and Theta Wang nodded, their faces full of admiration. They felt that the man in front of them seemed to be omnipotent. Swish! Before his voice died away, the white-eyed wolf and Mu Qing returned. "Haha, this is really too satisfying." The white-eyed wolf couldn't stop laughing. Thinking of Zhang Yunshuang's arrogance in the sky cloud realm and comparing it with his current appearance, it was really satisfying. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. Looking at Mu Qing and Mu Tianyang, he said with a smile, "The ultimate profound has been obtained. You can arrange it yourself." "Arrange it ourselves?" Mu Qing was taken aback. "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded and asked puzzledly, "Do you want me to help arrange it?" This, Mu Qing laughed dryly and said, "It's all because of you that we can obtain these 7 ultimate profound. What qualifications do we have to arrange it? You're treating me like an outsider." "As I said, the next ultimate profound will belong to you and Dong Zhongyang." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. This, Mu Qing and Mu Tianyang looked at each other, their eyes extremely complicated. One had to know. Qin Feiyang not only had a large number of subordinates around him, but also his relatives such as the Mermaid Princess and Fire Lotus. If it were someone else, they would definitely prioritize their relatives and subordinates around them. But now, Qin Feiyang actually prioritized them? They were once enemies. Was this Qin Feiyang's character? Without the slightest selfishness. It was indeed admirable. You can arrange the ultimate profound by yourselves. Now, open your heavenly eye and help me find the whereabouts of the Divine King, the sovereign of the human race, the monarch. Qin Feiyang looked at Mu Qing and said, "Okay." Mu Qing nodded and immediately opened his heavenly eye. In his eyes, a floating island could be vaguely seen. This was the Island of God. The current Island of God had been restored to its original state. Somewhere on the island, a woman was leaning on a chair. She was rubbing her forehead. She seemed to be very irritated. The Divine King is on the Island of God. After Mu Qing finished speaking, he checked the whereabouts of the monarch and the sovereign of the human race. The evolved heavenly eye indeed had the ability to reach the heavens. No one would be able to hide from him. Very soon, Mu Qing saw the whereabouts of the monarch and the sovereign of the human race, and said, "The sovereign of the human race is at Mount Supreme. As for the monarch, that place is very unfamiliar. He should be in the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan's territory." They're not together? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Logically speaking, after such a big thing happened, the three giants should have gathered together to discuss countermeasures. Moreover, only by gathering together could they deal with their attacks. But now they had returned to their own territory. They didn't want to encircle and annihilate them anymore? Right now they probably have no other choice. Mu Tianyang shook his head and smiled, because the monarch and the others didn't know where they were hiding, nor did they know their next move. As the saying goes, only by knowing yourself and your enemy can you win 100 battles. If they didn't even know where they were, how could they set up a trap to encircle them? Moreover, they had no relatives or friends in the Divine Kingdom, and there was nothing to threaten them with. In short, as long as Qin Feiyang and the others successfully stepped into the Divine Kingdom, they would be able to instantly turn the passive into the active. At this time, Li Feng came through the air and landed in the tea garden. "How is it?" White-Eyed Wolf asked. "Of course, we will continue to suppress them in the Soul-Sealing Valley." Li Feng smiled, looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, "Qin Dage, when do you plan to make a deal with the Divine King?" "The deal is not urgent. Moreover, now that their battle souls and ultimate profound have been taken away, the Divine King may not make a deal with us. First, check the whereabouts of the other three strongest battle souls." Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and looked at Mu Qing. It's easy to check them, but first I need to know their names or what they look like." Mu Qing said. "We know that." Qin Feiyang smiled. When he was discussing with Long Chan and Long Qin had projected their appearances. As Qin Feiyang waved his hand, the shadows of Ji Shaoi and another man and woman immediately appeared in the void. Mu Qing looked at the three of them and opened his all-seeing eye again. But soon, he frowned. "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Mu Qing didn't answer and continued to check. After about 10 breaths, he said in a deep voice, "This Ji Shaoi is actually hiding in the Monarch Space Divine Item." Heard that? Qin Feiyang, White-Eyed Wolf, and Mu Tianyang couldn't help but frown. This was a bit difficult. If Ji Shaoi was hiding in the land of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan, although it was more difficult to kidnap him, as long as the plan was meticulous, they could still find a chance. But if he was hiding in the Monarch Space Divine Item, then the first person they had to deal with was the monarch. "What about the other two?" White-Eyed Wolf asked. "They are also hiding in the Space Divine Item of the Human Clan Supreme Master," Mu Qing said weakly. Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched, and he said with a wry smile, "It seems that the monarch has seen through our purpose and carried out personal protection for Ji Shaoi and the other two. In that case, it won't be so easy to capture these three people again." Mu Tianyang sighed. "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. "Then we can take them down one by one. Now let's find Dong Zhengyang's archenemy first," White-Eyed Wolf said. "Dong Zhengyang's archenemy," Qin Feiyang murmured. Dong Zhengyang had the Eye of Destiny. After the Eye of Destiny evolved, they could see the future, which was indeed more beneficial for their future development. But who had the Eye of Destiny? Mu Tianyang asked. "Why don't we go to Mount Supreme to investigate?" Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, "To be honest, I've already been to Mount Supreme. The security is very tight. And there's no way to sneak in. Then there's no need to sneak in. Mu Tianyang waved his hand. That's right. Anyway, didn't the human clan Supreme Master ask the 3 sovereigns to invite us to Mount Supreme? Let's head to Mount Supreme openly. White-Eyed Wolf said. I don't agree. What if the human clan Supreme Master tells the Divine King and the Monarch to bring people to surround us? Li Feng shook his head. Qin Feiyong nodded. Li Feng's worries weren't without reason. Although they weren't afraid of anything in the Divine Kingdom now, if they were really surrounded by various forces, they wouldn't be able to survive even if they had the ability to defy the heavens. One wrong step and they would lose everything. So they couldn't take this risk. How about this? Since we can't go to Mount Supreme, then we'll think of a way to lure the human clan Supreme Master out. I want to see what he wants to talk to us about. Qin Feiyong pondered for a moment and smiled. If that's the case, then I have no objections. Li Feng smiled. Because compared to going to Mount Supreme, this method was safer. Chapter 4077. Qin Feiyong looked at the white-eyed wolf and said with a smile, give them the ultimate profoundness. Let's go out for a walk. All of them? The white-eyed wolf frowned. Yes. Qin Feiyong nodded. The white-eyed wolf was somewhat reluctant. Li Feng glanced at Mu Qing and asked, Qin Dage, you seem to have mastered the ultimate profoundness of the 5 ultimate laws? Yes. Qin Feiyong nodded. He had already calculated earlier. Together with the ultimate profoundness of the life and death laws, he had exactly 5 ultimate profoundness of the 5 ultimate laws. In that case, why don't you integrate another ultimate profoundness of the ultimate law, and see if another will of the heavenly Tao can descend? Li Feng suggested. That makes sense. Anyway, there are now 7 ultimate profoundness of the ultimate laws. Even if you integrate one, Mu Tianyang or Mu Qing can still master the will of the heavenly Tao. The white-eyed wolf also nodded in agreement. Hearing this, Qin Feiyong could not help but be tempted. If another will of the heavenly Tao descended, his strength would undoubtedly soar by a large margin. Hence Qin Feiyong cast his gaze toward Mu Qing and Mu Tianyang. You were the one who captured them and you were the one who found ways to get the ultimate profoundness. Of course, we have no objections if you want to integrate them. Moreover, if another will of the heavenly Tao descends and your strength increases, it will be very beneficial to us in the future. Mu Tianyang smiled faintly. In that case, Qin Feiyong pondered for a moment and said with a smile, then I will integrate an ultimate profoundness of the time law. Jiang Xing was the space-time law and the karma law. Jiang Zishan was the time law and the devouring law. Jiang Yunshuang was the time law, the death law, and the destruction law. In other words, the time law was repeated. After Qin Feiyong chose the law of time, the remaining law of space-time, the law of karma, the law of devour, the law of death, the law of destruction, and the law of time were just enough to create an expert who could control the will of heaven. Since Qin Feiyong wanted it, the white-eyed wolf naturally wouldn't say anything. He immediately took out the law of time and handed it to Qin Feiyong. As for the remaining 6 great laws, he glanced at Mu Qing and Mu Tianyang and snorted coldly, you guys got lucky. After saying that, he handed it over to the 2 of them. Mu Tianyang chuckled. Mu Qing was also full of smiles. Then let's fuse the laws first. After that, we'll go look for the sovereign of the human race. Qin Feiyong stood up and said with a smile, yes. Actually, after causing such a big commotion this time, it's also good for us to disappear for a while. If that's the case, the monarch and the others won't be able to figure out what exactly we are planning. Mu Tianyang said. That's right. Qin Feiyong nodded and smiled. Then he turned and walked toward the ancient castle. The white-eyed wolf and Li Feng also followed him. Li Feng asked, Brother Wolf, why don't you fuse with these inheritances first? Fuse with these inheritances first? The white-eyed wolf was stunned. What did he mean? Li Feng said, you can fuse with these inheritances first. When the seal on your iron box is unlocked, you can give it to them. So that's what you're talking about. I want to. But the inheritances I got this time don't contain the ultimate meaning of the law of life at all. Now, I only lack the law of life and the law of destruction. If I fuse with the law of destruction now, I won't be able to master the will of the great path without the law of life. Forget it. I won't compete with them. I don't want them to say that we're bullying them. It wasn't easy for little Qin Zi and Mu Qing to shake hands and make peace. We can't make a scene again because of a small matter. The white-eyed wolf shook his head. I really didn't expect you to have such a big picture view. Li Feng looked as if he had discovered a new continent. Get lost. The white-eyed wolf's face darkened. Qin Feiyang glanced at the white-eyed wolf, turned to look at Li Feng, and said with a chuckle, "This proves that your brother wolf has grown up. You're still in the mood?" The white-eyed wolf scowled. The ultimate meaning of the 6 strongest laws. Could he be more generous to give it to Mu Qing and Mu Tianyang just like that? Just thinking about it made his heart ache. Take it easy. You've seen Mu Qing's all-seeing eye now. With him helping us in the future, we'll be like a tiger that has grown wings. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Even so, I still feel a little distressed. The white-eyed wolf pursed his lips. How can there be gains without effort? Let's talk about it later. Isn't there a lot of people in the divine kingdom who have mastered the ultimate meaning of the strongest laws? Qin Feiyang patted the white-eyed wolf's shoulder and smiled meaningfully. The white-eyed wolf froze for a moment, and then his eyes glowed green. That's right. Although there were only a few people in the sky cloud realm who had mastered the ultimate meaning of the strongest laws, the divine kingdom didn't lack such people at all. Not to mention Mount Supreme, the Divine Island, and the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan's ancestral land. Even the major cities could easily find a few people who had mastered the ultimate meaning of the strongest laws. As long as they had the ability to capture these people and force them to hand over the ultimate meaning, not to mention 6, even 60 would be a piece of cake. The most important thing was, this kind of plundering not only strengthened their strength, but also weakened the divine kingdom's strength. It could be said to be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. This time the white-eyed wolf was excited. Maybe in the future, the people around them could also master the will of the heavenly Tao. Qin Dage, after Mu Qing, Mu Tianyang, and Dong Zhengyang master the will of the heavenly Tao, shouldn't you think about sister-in-law? Li Feng asked with a smile. Yes. All these years, I have indeed owed your sister-in-law too much. I will definitely think of her first in the future. Qin Feiyang smiled. And my wife, you can't favor one and discriminate against the other. The white-eyed wolf hurriedly said. I know. Qin Feiyang looked at him helplessly. He was afraid that he would forget about fire dance. Women were the support of men, the spiritual support. Therefore, whether it was the mermaid princess, fire dance, Zhuo Shaoxian or fire lotus, he had to take care of them first. To be more selfish, if it weren't for the fact that Mu Qing and the others had mastered the strongest battle soul and could unleash super strength, he would definitely take care of the mermaid princess and the others first. In the tea garden, Mu Tianyang and Mu Qing sat opposite each other. Mu Tianyang pondered for a moment, looked at Mu Qing and asked, "What do you think we should do with the 6 ultimate laws?" I think. Mu Qing lowered her head and thought for a moment, then looked up at Mu Tianyang and said, "I want to say it, don't be angry. I think we should give it to Dong Zhengyang first." Mu Tianyang was not angry. On the contrary, he was very gratified. Because at least this proved that Mu Qing had recognized her mistake and wanted to make it up to Dong Zhengyang. Frankly speaking, Mu Tianyang had always been brooding about Qin Feiyang and Qin Badian and could not let go. Qin Badian destroyed his Tianyang empire. Qin Feiyang destroyed his Mu family single-handedly and killed his woman Shun Mei. But these were 2 different things. He had always been grateful to Dong Zhengyang. Therefore, when Mu Qing wanted to scheme against Dong Zhengyang, he strongly opposed it. You won't object, right? Mu Qing was a little nervous. Why would I? Let's go. Let's go find Dong Zhengyang now. Mu Tianyang chuckled, got up, and walked toward a courtyard not far away with the 6 ultimate laws. In the ancient castle, Qin Feiyang sat cross-legged in the cultivation room, took out the inheritance of the time law, and began to meditate. This was equivalent to an inheritance. And to integrate the inheritance, one must first master this law. In short, first of all, Qin Feiyang had to comprehend the time law before he could integrate this inheritance. Although he had not mastered the time law yet, this inheritance contained all of Jiang Yunshuang's understanding and experience of the time law. And this time law inheritance was Jiang Yunshuang's. So, as long as one was not a fool, one could easily comprehend it, let alone Qin Feiyang who had unlocked the door of potential. In the courtyard where Dong Zhengyang was. In the hall. After listening to the purpose of Mu Tianyang and Mu Qing's visit, Dong Zhengyang looked at Mu Qing and was very pleased. What he was most worried about was that Mu Qing and Mu Tianyang would fall out with Qin Feiyang and the others after their fighting souls evolved. One had to know. The strongest fighting soul before and after its evolution were two completely different concepts. It was no exaggeration. Now if Mu Qing and Mu Tianyang betrayed everyone and went to Ice Dragon or the Divine Kingdom, then whether it was Ice Dragon or the people of the Divine Kingdom, they would immediately spend a lot of money to train them. They would even treat them as VIPs. But fortunately, what he was worried about did not happen, especially Mu Qing. He could tell that no matter if it was him or Qin Feiyang and the others, Mu Qing no longer had any enmity towards them. Looking at the 6 Tao laws, Dong Zhengyang smiled and said, "The ultimate profound of the 6 Tao laws is really tempting. But my eye of destiny has not evolved. Even if I have mastered the will of heaven, the combat power I can unleash is limited. I appreciate your kindness, but you can merge with it." This, Mu Qing and Mu Tianyang looked at each other. In the face of such temptation, how could they reject it? These people were really open-minded. Suddenly, even they felt that they were too narrow-minded in the past. Dong Zhengyang pondered for a while and smiled. "I have a suggestion. Mu Qing, you can listen to it. Of course, it is just a suggestion. Don't think too much." "Go ahead." Mu Qing looked at him. Dong Zhengyang said with a smile, "Actually, your ancestor will benefit the most from fusing these 6 Dharma laws, because his evil eye can be used to kill enemies on the battlefield. As for your all-seeing eye, although it's heaven-defying, it's only an auxiliary ability. It's not very useful in killing enemies on the battlefield." "Heard about it." Mu Qing pondered for a while and nodded. "That seems to be the case. Outside the battlefield, the all-seeing eye was invincible, could see everything in the world. But on the battlefield, the all-seeing eye was basically useless. But the evil eye was different. During a battle, the evil eye could control the enemy's 7 emotions and 6 desires. It could control the enemy's thoughts and even turn them into puppets. This was especially true in a life-and-death battle. Could play a crucial role. Anyway, even if you don't master the will of heaven, it will not affect your all-seeing eye. So I suggest letting your ancestor merge with it first. Of course, this depends on your own thoughts." Dong Zhengyang smiled. "There is nothing to think about. It's decided then." Mu Qing waved his hand and said, not to mention anything else, just the fact that Mu Tianyang was his ancestor, he couldn't possibly snatch it from Mu Tianyang. Chapter 4078. Time flew by. 2 years passed. In these 2 years, Qin Feiyang and the others didn't do anything, but their deeds had been spreading. They broke into the Divine Kingdom, carried away the gate of the Divine Kingdom, looted 51 cities, and then killed their way into the Divine Island, kidnapped Zhang Yunshuang and the 3 evildoers, looted the spirit vein and crystal vein of the Divine Mountain, and destroyed the Divine Island, causing the Divine Clan to suffer a great loss. Most importantly, he had played the monarch, the Divine King, and the supreme being of the human race like fools. No matter which one of these things, it was enough to shake the world. The Divine Kingdom hadn't been so lively for a long time. In these 2 years, the monarch and the other 2 had gathered together to discuss more than once. The topic of discussion was undoubtedly Qin Feiyang and the others. For 2 whole years, this group of people had disappeared without a trace. This was too unusual. What were they planning? Every day they were on tenterhooks. They were afraid that Qin Feiyang and the others would run out the next moment and cause a big commotion. This kind of anxiety made them extremely tired. Especially the monarch. 2 years had passed, and his face was full of stubble. He was worried all day long, as if he had aged dozens of years, because he was under the most pressure. As the monarch of the Divine Kingdom, he had to bear the responsibility of maintaining the order of the Divine Kingdom. The more trouble Qin Feiyang and the others caused, the greater the damage to the Divine Kingdom, and the greater his responsibility would be. 10,000 years had passed. Once the ruler of the Divine Kingdom came out, he, as the monarch, would naturally be blamed. He didn't have to think for himself, but he had to think for the entire Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan. If the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan fell into eternal damnation because of him, Then he would be the center of the purple gold divine dragon clan for eternity. On this day, the North Continent, the monarch changed his usual style and wore plain clothes. He looked like an ordinary villager as he entered a remote mountain. Deep in the mountain there was a small village. There were only 10 households in the village. But the strange thing was, there wasn't even a young man here. There wasn't even a middle-aged man. They were all old men and women in their 50s. There were only about 10 of them. They were also very plain. Some were basking in the sun, some were playing chess, some were drinking tea, and some were fishing by the river in front of the village. It was peaceful and tranquil, and life was incomparably comfortable. In the distance, the monarch looked at the village in the mountains with awe in his eyes. Very soon, he came to the opposite side of the river in front of the village. Beside the river, there was an old man in a linen robe. His face was old, and his hair was mottled with white. He sat on a small stool, and in front of him were 2 self-made fishing rods. "Little Wang, you're here." The old man looked at the monarch with a kind smile on his face. The monarch took a deep breath and walked up to the old man. He bowed respectfully and said, "Greetings, second master." "Little Wang, what are you doing here in our small village? We don't have any good wine or dishes to entertain you." The elders in the village all noticed the king and started to tease him. Hearing this, the monarch was like a child. With a wry smile on his face, he said, "Can you not laugh at me? I don't come here for no reason." The group of elders heard this and smiled at each other. "I knew you would come." One of the old ladies laughed hoarsely. "You knew?" The monarch was stunned. "Yes. Although we live in seclusion here, we have also been paying attention to the divine kingdom." The old lady nodded. "Then, second young mistress, please enlighten me." The monarch bowed and said, "Don't look for an old lady like me. Go to Old Nine. Old Nine is famous for having a lot of ideas." The old lady waved her hand. "Then where is Old Nine?" The monarch glanced at the village and asked. "The back of the mountain." The old lady pointed to the mountain behind the village. It was a mountain about 10,000 feet high. The vegetation was lush, and the scenery was beautiful. All kinds of bird cries could be heard from afar. "Then I'll go to Old Nine." The monarch looked at the group of elders and said with a smile. He immediately walked to the back of the mountain. The back of the mountain. At the top of the mountain, there was a tea garden here. Every tea tree emitted a hazy divine light. The monarch had only climbed halfway up the mountain when he could already smell the rich tea fragrance. That's right. The monarch walked up step by step as if he was on a pilgrimage. Because this village was the holy land in his heart. Each of the elders who lived here had heaven-defying abilities, and they were his last resort. After a while, the monarch finally reached the top of the mountain. He immediately saw an old man who was over 70 years old standing alone in the tea garden. He held a clean towel in his hand and carefully wiped every tea leaf. "Old 9G," the monarch murmured and quickly walked into the tea garden. He bowed and said, "Unfilial descendant, Ji Yunwang greets Old Nine." Old 9G turned to look at the monarch and asked with a smile, "Aren't you staying in the ancestral land? What are you doing here?" Old 9G is asking the obvious. The monarch was helpless. Old 9G smiled faintly and did not answer. He continued to wipe the tea leaves on the tree. The monarch did not dare to disturb him. He stood silently at the side like a reserved child. After a long time, Old 9G finally finished his work. He turned and walked to a stone table not far away. The monarch hurriedly followed. "Have a seat." Old 9G sat in front of the stone table. He greeted the monarch and began to make tea. If Qin Feiyang was here, he would definitely be reluctant to leave, because this tea garden was full of divine tea trees. "Okay." The monarch nodded and sat across from Old 9G obediently. While making tea, Old 9G asked with a smile, "Little Wang, this old man knows why you are here, but this old man wants to ask you first. What do you think of the purple gold dragon blood?" This, the monarch did not know how to answer for a moment. "Actually, as purple gold divine dragons, we all have the same idea as you. We purple gold divine dragons are the noblest divine beasts. Mating with humans is blasphemy to our purple gold divine dragon clan. But When we heard the rumors about Qin Feiyong and Qin Badian, we all discussed it seriously. Maybe our ideas are too old-fashioned. Old 9G sighed. What do you mean by that? The monarch was surprised. Old 9G looked up at the sky. His eyes flashed and he said telepathically, "This old man means that our Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan can try to accept Qin Feiyong and Qin Badian." The monarch was shocked. If the sovereign knew about this, the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan would definitely be wiped out. You don't have to be surprised. This is not just this old man's idea. Although our Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan is powerful, we can't control our own fate. We should learn to resist and fight for ourselves. Of course, we also have to observe Qin Feiyong's potential. Does he have the ability to fight against the sovereign? In short, we can't be the sinners of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan. Do you understand? Old 9G telepathically said. The monarch nodded. He had made it so clear. How could he not understand? Old 9G smiled and said telepathically, "If there's a chance, ask Qin Feiyong and Qin Badian to come here. We old guys want to see the glory of these two young people with our own eyes." Okay, the monarch said. Are there any other questions? Old 9G asked. Yes. I've never understood what Qin Feiyong and the others' intentions are. The monarch looked suspicious. Intentions? Old 9G shook his head and laughed. You're too involved to see clearly. The monarch was stunned and hurriedly said, "Please enlighten me, Old 9G." Old 9G asked, "Have Qin Feiyong and the others done anything outrageous since they came to the Divine Kingdom?" It seems. The monarch thought for a moment and frowned. Apart from the time when we were hunting them down and they hurt some innocent people, they didn't do anything outrageous. They didn't just do nothing. Even when they looted the 51 cities in the West Continent, they didn't hurt any innocent people. As for what happened on the Divine Island 2 years ago, it had no effect on the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan and the human race. In other words, they have never directly targeted the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan and the human race. Do you know why? Because Qin Feiyong is a human, so he doesn't want to attack the human race. And the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan has an inseparable relationship with Qin Feiyong, so he doesn't want to target us. So he chose the God race as his target, but he didn't really go all out against the Protoss. Otherwise, the entire direct line of descent and descendants of the Protoss would have been wiped out 2 years ago. After all, they have the ability to do so. Old 9G smiled. Makes sense. The monarch nodded. Jijiu picked up the teacup and sniffed it. He thought to himself, if I'm not wrong, their real goal should be that person. The monarch's heart trembled. It was so vague. Was there a need to guess? Obviously, he was referring to the ruler of the Divine Kingdom. Old 9G smiled. Little Wang, although you are the monarch of the Divine Kingdom, you have to admit that Qin Feiyong is more farsighted than you. These words made the monarch a little unconvinced. If you don't believe me, you can ask Qin Feiyong in person. He has definitely seen the situation and helplessness of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan. And the only way to break out of our current predicament is to get rid of that person. In this way, the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan, including the human race, the God race, the beast race, and the sea race, can be truly free. As long as we get rid of that person, the problem between the Divine Kingdom and the Sky Cloud realm will naturally be solved. Old 9G smiled secretly. The monarch's scalp went numb. He never thought that these young people were planning such a terrible plan. Getting rid of the ruler of the Divine Kingdom was a problem he didn't even dare to think about. Old 9G drank tea and suddenly seemed to think of something. He smiled secretly and said, "Before you leave Ji Shaoyi with us." Ah! The monarch looked at Old 9G in astonishment. What was he up to this time? Jiang Yunshuang, Jiang Xing, and Jiang Zishan have fallen into their hands. The next target is naturally Ji Shaoyi, Lu Zhongtian, and Zhuang Mingyue. Lu Zhongtian and Zhuang Mingyue are from the human race, so they have little to do with us. But Ji Shaoyi is the prodigy of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan, so we must protect him well. Let's talk about it later. If Qin Feiyong and the others know that Ji Shaoyi is with us, will they not come? Old 9G chuckled. So that's how it is. The monarch suddenly understood and said with a smile, "Indeed, leaving Ji Shaoyi here is safer than staying by my side. Then I'll leave the future to you." After that, he called Ji Shaoi out of the spatial divine item. Chapter 4079. Black Tortoise Realm. 2 years in the outside world was more than 3 million years in the Black Tortoise Realm. After these years of development, the current Black Tortoise Realm was comparable to the size of 2 ancient realms. It could be said that it was getting stronger day by day. Of course, the strength of Qin Feiyang and the others was also soaring. Boom! Accompanied by a terrifying aura, the Time God Sword appeared above the ancient castle. The next moment, Qin Feiyang appeared from the ancient castle, and the aura he exuded was stronger than before. Because now, he had integrated the ultimate meaning of the time law. Other than the light law, all of them were the ultimate meaning of the strongest laws. In terms of quantity, he had already caught up to the king. This was because the monarch had also grasped the 7 ultimate mysteries. Moreover, in terms of quality, the king couldn't catch up. Although the king's 7 ultimate meanings were all the strongest laws, Qin Feiyang's life and death law ultimate meaning could fight 1 against 6. Following the appearance of the commotion, frenzy, white-eyed wolf, Li Feng, and Mu Qing also ran out and looked at Qin Feiyang expectantly. Qin Feiyang was also looking forward to it. However, after a long while, the will of heaven didn't descend from the sky. What's going on? Life and death law, life law, destruction law, cause and effect law plus the current time law, aren't these the 6 strongest laws? Why didn't the will of heaven descend? Could it be that a person can only master 1 will of heaven in their life? Several people were surprised. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but frown. Did they look forward to it for nothing? Wait, the life and death law has already surpassed the limit of the strongest laws. To be honest, it no longer belongs to the strongest laws. Could it be that one has to master another ultimate meaning of the strongest law? Frenzy frowned. White-eyed wolf, Li Feng, and Mu Qing were slightly stunned when they heard this. After thinking carefully, it seemed to make sense. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and the Time God Sword dissipated. He landed in front of Frenzy and smiled bitterly. If that's the case, then there's still hope, but I'm afraid it will be for nothing. Don't be discouraged. After all, there is no precedent for this matter. We have to verify it ourselves. Madman bared his teeth. I'm not discouraged. If I really have to fuse another ultimate profundity, then I'll choose the law of space-time. Seeing you guys open up the space-time passageway and go wherever you want, I'm a little envious. Qin Feiyang looked at the madman and the white-eyed wolf. Madman rolled his eyes. Your laws of darkness have already fused? Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. Of course. If not, would you be able to see me now? Madman smiled proudly. Qin Feiyang smiled. Then you are also a man who has mastered the 6-path ultimate mysteries. You flatter me. Compared to you, I'm still lacking. Madman chuckled. But soon he would catch up with Qin Feiyang. No, he had surpassed Qin Feiyang. Because now he already had enough ultimate meaning in his hands, and he was just short of unsealing it. Once the seal was unraveled and the 3 ultimate laws of nature were fused together, he would be in control of the 9 ultimate mysteries. This was the rhythm of ascending to heaven. Just thinking about it made him excited. Qin Feiyang looked at Mu Qing again and asked, You didn't fuse with the inheritance? No. Fuse with the ancestor first. Mu Qing shook his head. Qin Feiyang looked at him in surprise. He had really changed a lot. With a smile he said, Then help me take a look. Where are the ruler of the divine kingdom, Ice Dragon, and small beast now? Okay. Mu Qing nodded and opened his all-seeing eye. A moment later, he was slightly taken aback, and his expression became strange. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang and the others looked at him in confusion. Mu Qing said in disbelief, They are actually in the Hell King's hell. What? Hell King's hell? Qin Feiyang and the others were also stunned. There's no mistake, they are in the Hell King's hell. And they are in the Divine Demon Forest. Mu Qing said with certainty. Haha, this ice dragon and small beast are really capable. This ruler is not in the Divine Kingdom, so it will be much more convenient for us to do things in the future. Madman laughed loudly. Yes. In the future, we don't have to hide when we talk to the human race's sovereign and sovereign. Qin Feiyang nodded. That's not the point, okay? The white-eyed wolf opened his mouth and looked at Mu Qing in disbelief. Then what is the point? Qin Feiyong, Madman, Li Feng, and Mu Qing all looked at the white-eyed wolf in confusion. The point is that this guy's all-seeing eye can actually see Ice Dragon and the others in the Divine Kingdom. You have to know that the Divine Kingdom and the Sky Cloud Realm are two different worlds. The white-eyed wolf said. In other words, the all-seeing eye can ignore the existence of the world. No matter where the other party is, it can be seen. So this is what you are talking about. The all-seeing eye has no lethality. If its ability is not heaven-defying, can it be called the strongest battle soul? Moreover, I discovered this long ago. Only you are slow to realize it. Qin Feiyong was speechless. Discovered it long ago? The white-eyed wolf was taken aback. Yes, the Black Tortoise Realm is also an independent world. Back then, he was able to spy on the whereabouts of the Divine King and the others in the Black Tortoise Realm. Doesn't that mean that he can ignore the existence of the world? In short, with the help of the all-seeing eye and the ruler being taken to the underworld by Ice Dragon and Small Beast, we can basically do whatever we want in the Divine Kingdom in the future. Qin Feiyong smiled slightly. Makes sense. The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. It seemed that this Mu Qing was still very valuable. Qin Feiyong looked at Mu Qing and said with a smile, "Help me check the whereabouts of the monarch and the other two, as well as Ji Shaoyi, Lu Zhongqian and Zhuang Mingyue." Okay. Mu Qing opened the all-seeing eye again. This is too convenient. Li Feng muttered. It could be said that as long as Mu Qing was here, any conspiracy or encirclement would be useless against them. He finally understood why Qin Feiyong cared so much about Mu Qing, Mu Tianyang, Dong Zhengyang, and the demon ancestor. It was not an exaggeration to say that. With the help of these people, it was like a god helping them. Suddenly, a trace of surprise appeared on Mu Qing's face. What's wrong? Qin Feiyong was shocked. Strange. Mu Qing frowned and looked at Qin Feiyong. Let me take a closer look. Okay. Qin Feiyong nodded. After a while, Mu Qing frowned more and more. Looking at Qin Feiyong and the others, he said, "It's really strange. The monarch, the human race, the divine king, Lu Zhongqian, and Zhuang Mingyue's positions have not changed, but Ji Shaoyi is not in the monarch's spatial divine item. Not here. It can't be. Is the monarch not afraid that we will attack Ji Shaoyi?" White-eyed wolf was surprised. "This is what I don't understand." Mu Qing said. "Where is Ji Shaoyi now?" Li Feng asked. "On a mountaintop surrounded by tea gardens and an old man." Mu Qing's eyes flickered as he looked at Qin Feiyong and laughed. "This place is a treasure for you." "What treasure?" Qin Feiyong was puzzled. "If my judgment is correct, the tea garden is full of divine tea trees." Mu Qing grinned. "It's all divine tea trees?" Qin Feiyong was shocked and asked, "Where is this place?" "I don't know. I haven't been there. I have to find someone to inquire about it." Mu Qing shook his head. "It's all divine tea trees. Mountaintop. Old man." Qin Feiyong's eyes flickered, and his pupils suddenly shrank. Since the monarch can give Ji Shaoyi to that old man without worry, it means that the old man's strength is beyond imagination. No matter how strong he is, can he be stronger than us? Frenzy's face was full of disdain. "That's right. Even the monarch is no match for us, let alone a bad old man. Don't panic. Why don't we go find the human race's supreme being first? Maybe he knows where this place is." White-eyed wolf followed. "Okay." Qin Feiyong nodded and looked at Mu Qing with a smile. "Then we will have to trouble you to go out with us. Right now they must bring Mu Qing with them. This way they can calmly deal with all the unknown changes." "It's my pleasure." Mu Qing smiled. Whoosh! The group of 5 retracted their auras and appeared on top of a mountain. Mount Supreme was right in front of them. Because back then, Qin Feiyong entered the Black Tortoise Realm right after he came to Mount Supreme to gather information. Wait. If Mu Qing follows us, then we don't have to worry about the monarch and the divine king bringing people to surround us, right? Because he can always use his heaven's eye to spy on the monarch and the divine king's whereabouts. White-eyed wolf scanned Mount Supreme and suddenly said, "Yeah. Once we find out that they are bringing people to surround us, we can just leave early. The people of Mount Supreme can't stop us anyway." Frenzy's eyes also lit up. The current Mu Qing was indeed an indispensable helper. Qin Feiyong also slapped his head. He actually overlooked this point. Back then, they were still thinking about how to lure the human race's sovereign out, but now they realized that there was no need for that. If that's the case, then let's directly charge into Mount Supreme? Li Feng asked. The madman grinned. He took a step forward and landed on the edge of Mount Supreme. Please. Qin Feiyong looked at Mu Qing and smiled. Don't worry. Mu Qing smiled and opened his heaven's eye to pay attention to the monarch and the divine king's movements. At the same time, as Qin Feiyong and the others appeared, the great venerable immediately stood up, as if he was facing a great enemy, because the person guarding here was the great venerable of Mount Supreme. Don't be nervous. We were invited here as guests. Frenzy chuckled. The great venerable glanced at them and remained silent. What do you mean? Didn't you sovereigns ask the third venerable to invite us to Mount Supreme a while ago? Now that we're invited, this is your attitude? White-eyed Wolf raised his eyebrows. Actually, the great venerable couldn't be blamed. After disappearing for 2 years and suddenly appearing at Mount Supreme, no one would be able to remain calm. Senior, don't worry this time, we're not here to cause trouble. Qin Feiyong said with an amiable smile. The great venerable glanced at White-eyed Wolf in frenzy, then looked at Qin Feiyong and said, Wait here, I'll inform Lord Supreme. No need, just bring them in. At this moment, the human race's sovereign's voice came from the depths of the mountain. Yes, the great venerable replied respectfully and looked at Qin Feiyong and the others. With a wave of his hand, a barrier appeared in front of Qin Feiyong and the others, then a crack appeared on the barrier. Qin Feiyong and the others looked at each other and stepped into the barrier. Sovereign, hurry and inform the divine king and the king to come and encircle them. That's right. This is a good chance. As long as we delay them and wait for the divine king and the king to come, then they'll be like turtles in a jar. While the great venerable led Qin Feiyong and the others into the depths of the mountain, the other venerables also sensed the aura of Qin Feiyong and the others and immediately communicated with their minds. However, Qin Feiyong and the others didn't know about these communications. Happy Lantern Festival. Today is the last day of the Spring Festival. I wish everyone a great success in the new year. At the same time, I'll resume the update tomorrow. Chapter 4080. Don't joke with us. There are so many people in Mount Supreme. Once the battle starts, there will be countless casualties. Besides, they kidnapped Jiang Yunchuang and the other two. The Eye of Heaven might have evolved by now. Once the Eye of Heaven evolves, nothing in the world can hide. That's right. With the Eye of Heaven, it's impossible to surround them. But some sovereigns objected. But this is a rare opportunity. Are we going to miss it? Some people weren't willing to give up. Stop arguing. Let's listen to what the Supreme says. The great sovereign said. The sovereigns were silent for a while. The human Supreme said, Great sovereign, stay next to them and observe carefully. See if any of them have opened the Eye of Heaven. When the great venerable heard this, he calmly glanced at Qin Feiyong and the other four. Qin Feiyong, the madman, the white-eyed wolf. Needless to say, everyone knew about his battle soul. Although the people of the Divine Kingdom were familiar with Li Feng, they had never seen his battle soul. Mu Qing was also a stranger to the people of the Divine Kingdom. So the great sovereign focused on observing Li Feng and Mu Qing. He didn't know if he didn't look, but when he did, he was startled. When his eyes met Mu Qing's, he immediately felt fear from the depths of his soul. Also, he felt like he was being watched, as if his clothes were being stripped off. That's right. This was the Eye of Heaven. As the great sovereign of the human race, he had of course seen Jiang Zishan, so he knew what the Eye of Heaven was. He was too nervous when facing Qin Feiyong, the madman and the white-eyed wolf, so he didn't pay attention to Mu Qing. Only now did he know that the owner of the Eye of Heaven was right next to them. We can't attack. The owner of the Eye of Heaven is right next to me, and now he's opening the Eye of Heaven. It's very likely that he's spying on the Divine King, and the King to prevent us from encircling them. The great sovereign hurriedly told the human Supreme and the other sovereigns about this. In that case, the all-seeing eye has really evolved. The Eye of Heaven, the Eye of Despair, and now the Eye of Heaven. How are we going to deal with them in the future? Don't forget. There's also the Evil Eye and the Life Eye. These two most powerful fighting souls are incredible. If the possessors of these strongest fighting souls join forces, I'm afraid that even if we can successfully encircle and annihilate them, we will have to pay a heavy price. The words of the martial highnesses were filled with fear. If only Long Qin was here. No matter what method the venerables used to communicate in secret, they could all hear it. Very soon, majestic halls entered Qin Feiyang's and the others' line of sight. In front of every hall there was a sea of people. They were all from Mount Supreme. There were enforcers, elders, and even disciples. That was right. Mount Supreme also had a large number of disciples. Each and every one of these disciples was a peerless genius. For example, the blue-haired youth and the others who appeared in the Sky Cloud realm were the monstrous disciples of Mount Supreme. Also, the hundreds of thousands of Divine Kingdom geniuses that Ryuko and the others brought to the Sky Cloud realm were mostly disciples of Mount Supreme. At this moment, there were many familiar faces here. Looking at Qin Feiyang, the madman, the white-eyed wolf, and Li Feng in the sky, their eyes were filled with hatred. At the same time, looking at the foundation of Mount Supreme, Qin Feiyang and the others were also shocked, because any one of these disciples could sense the aura of the ultimate profound. Although most of them only had the aura of the ultimate profound of ordinary laws, it was still shocking enough. Suddenly, the white-eyed wolf's eyes lit up as his gaze fell on the peak of a giant mountain not far away. At the peak of the mountain, more than a dozen young men and women were gathered. A few of them were familiar faces. They were the blue-haired youth and the other geniuses. So it's an old friend. Li Feng also chuckled. Everyone, how have you been? The madman waved his hand and greeted them warmly. The blue-haired youth and the others' faces darkened. Was he provoking them? Senior brother Wang Feng, senior sister Luodan. How can you tolerate this? A genius on the side looked at Wang Feng and the others and mocked. Wang Feng glanced at the genius and said gloomily, if you have the ability, then go ahead. We will definitely cheer for you here. But if you don't, then shut up. That genius's expression froze. Zhao Hong, don't talk about defeating them. As long as you have the courage to challenge them, I will admire you. Luodan also spoke. This Luodan was the woman in red that went to the Sky Cloud realm. She had mastered the three ultimate profound of death, thunder, and slaughter. In the past, with Luodan's strength she could indeed pose a threat to Qin Feiyang and the others. But now it was not worth mentioning. Hearing this, a cold light appeared in the eyes of the genius named Zhao Hong. You don't dare. Then what right do you have to laugh at us? At least when we were in the Sky Cloud realm we still dared to fight them. Another young man in black sneered. This person was also one of the top 10 geniuses that went to the Sky Cloud realm. His name was Lu Sheng. Back then, he also suffered at the hands of Li Feng, Long Qin, and Yun Xiang. What a joke. I am a genius of Mount Supreme. How can I not even have the courage to challenge them? Open your eyes wide and watch how I challenge them. Zhao Hong sneered and stepped forward. He instantly appeared in front of Qin Feiyang and the others. Wang Feng and the others were stunned. He actually went. How can there be such a stupid person? Although you didn't personally witness Qin Feiyang and the others' methods, there are plenty of rumors and deeds about them in the Divine Kingdom. Not to mention anything else, just these people alone killed their way into the Island of the Gods 2 years ago. Not only did they kidnap Zhang Yunshuang and the others, they even managed to retreat in front of the king and the others. This isn't something that you, Zhao Hong, can challenge. At the same time, the enforcers, disciples, and elders of Mount Supreme all looked at Zhao Hong in shock. What are you doing suddenly jumping out? Even the great venerables who were leading the way were caught off guard when they saw this scene. Not to mention Qin Feiyang and the other four. They didn't expect that someone would dare to block their way. Zhao Hong stood majestically in the air and looked at Qin Feiyang and the others. I, Zhao Hong, a genius disciple of Mount Supreme, challenge you? Huh. The madman and the white-eyed wolf looked at each other. What the hell? Challenging us? Did I hear wrong? Where did this courage come from? The great venerable was stunned for a moment, then became furious. He glared at Zhao Hong and yelled, what are you doing? Back off with me. Even he, the great venerable, didn't dare to challenge Qin Feiyang and the others. What are you, a disciple? Don't you have any self-awareness at all? Great venerable, this is where you are wrong. It's a good thing that you disciples of Mount Supreme have such courage. This is worth encouraging. Why are you lecturing him? The madman looked at the Great Venerable and chuckled. The Great Venerable's mouth twitched. Encouraging? He really wanted to slap such a stupid action. He said with a dark face, "He's just being immature. Please don't take it to heart." No. On the contrary, we admire him. The madman waved his hand and looked at Zhao Hong. He bared his teeth and said, "We've always promoted the virtue of helping others. Since you want to fight with us, then I'll do as you wish. Come." Zhao Hong glanced at the madman, then pointed at Mu Qing and said, "I want to challenge him." "What?" Mu Qing was stunned. Qin Feiyang, the madman, the white-eyed wolf and Li Feng were also stunned. Even the Great Venerable, Wang Feng and the other geniuses looked at Zhao Hong in shock. Challenge this person? Wait, I don't think I've seen this person in the Sky Cloud realm before? Wang Feng, Luo Dan, Lu Shang and the others looked at Mu Qing in shock. Just like the Great Venerable, they didn't know if they didn't look. But after looking, their faces were filled with shock. The All-Seeing Eye. He's the owner of the All-Seeing Eye? He's been hiding beside Qin Feiyang all this time? Back then they held a friendly competition in the Sky Cloud realm to find the owners of the strongest battle souls. But they've never seen this person since the friendly competition was held. He's really good at hiding. Doesn't that mean the other owner of the All-Seeing Eye, Jiang Zishan, has died? Mu Qing came back to her senses and said in shock, "Did I hear wrong? Are you sure he's here to challenge me?" "Yes. He's here to challenge you. Maybe he thinks you're easier to bully." The madman chuckled. Mu Qing's face darkened. He really knows how to pick an opponent. "What do we do? Do you want to fight?" The madman laughed secretly. "I don't even have a single ultimate law, how can I fight?" Mu Qing rolled her eyes. In fact, she had also comprehended an ultimate law, but it was only an ordinary law. As a prodigy of Mount Supreme, Zhao Hong must have mastered the ultimate law, so she had no chance of winning. But now, if she didn't dare to accept the challenge in front of everyone, wouldn't it be too embarrassing? If he wants to challenge you, you just have to accept it. Qin Feiyang transmitted her voice. Mu Qing looked at Qin Feiyang. Asking him to be tortured? Anyway, it's not like I can't use the sovereign divine weapon. Qin Feiyang laughed secretly. Mu Qing's eyes lit up when she heard this. That's right. If you're not strong enough, you can use the sovereign divine weapon to make up for it. Little guy, you want to challenge me? Wait. I'll make sure you don't even have a place to cry. You don't dare? Seeing that Mu Qing was silent for a long time, Zhao Hong sneered. Indeed, I don't dare. I don't have enough ability. Mu Qing shook her head and sighed. Haha, Zhao Hong laughed loudly. It seemed that he had found the right target. Qin Feiyang, the madman, the white-eyed wolf. He had long heard of Li Feng's strength. Even Jiang Yunshuang and Ryuko were no match for them, let alone him. So he chose Mu Qing. Although Mu Qing had the all-seeing eye, the aura she revealed wasn't very strong. First, he was still a little nervous. Was this person pretending to be weak? But now, hearing Mu Qing admit it personally, he couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. Indeed, no matter what he did, he needed brains. As long as he had brains, even if he wasn't confident, he could find an opportunity. And now Mu Qing didn't dare to accept the challenge. That was undoubtedly the time for him to hold his head high. Chapter 4081. He's really lucky. Wang Feng and the others looked at the arrogant Zhao Hong and felt extremely unbalanced. They really didn't expect this. A person with the all-seeing eye was actually so weak that he didn't even dare to accept Zhao Hong's challenge. How boring. The owner of the all-seeing eye only has this much ability. Zhao Hong shook his head and turned around to leave. Qin Feiyang and the others looked at each other as the corners of their mouths kept twitching. Putting everything else aside, Zhao Hong was truly better than anyone else when it came to acting tough. Seeing this scene, the great sage also had a trace of a smile on his face. Although Zhao Hong's actions were a bit despicable, it was still quite enjoyable to see Qin Feiyang and the others suffer. However, at this moment, Mu Qing lifted the corner of his mouth and said, "Although I'm not strong enough, I still want to try. After all, he's a prodigy of Mount Supreme. I still have to give him some face. Brothers, don't you agree? Yes. Lunatic, white-eyed wolf. Li Feng nodded. What? Zhao Hong's body stiffened as he slowly turned around to look at Mu Qing. The great sage's eyelids also twitched. Could it be that the owner of the all-seeing eye was really pretending to be weak? Wang Feng and the others were looking forward to it. Mu Qing walked to Qin Feiyang's side and looked at Zhao Hong. He cupped his hands and said, I hope Brother Zhao can go easy on me. Zhao Hong frowned. Is this person really that weak? Or is he pretending to be weak? I can't figure him out at all. I'm going to start. Mu Qing chuckled. Hearing this, Zhao Hong immediately became alert. Give me the Dominator Divine Weapon. Mu Qing sent a message to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. He calmly thought of something. Clang! Accompanied by a loud sound, a fiery red longsword immediately appeared in front of Mu Qing. Its terrifying sharpness instantly covered the entire Mount Supreme. That's right. It was the Blaze Magic Sword. After all these years, although the Blaze Magic Sword had not been fully restored, it was almost fully restored. In his current state, if he were to fight against a sovereign divine weapon of the same level, he would definitely be slightly weaker. However, it would be easy for him to crush an ultimate intent. After all, the Raging Flames Magic Sword was an intermediate dominator weapon. However, Qin Feiyang had quite a number of sovereign divine weapons, but why did he take out this Raging Flames Devil Sword that had yet to be fully repaired? Actually, he wanted to let Mu Qing use this opportunity to establish her might in Mount Supreme, and spread her name throughout the Divine Kingdom. Meanwhile, the Great Venerable's expression froze. As an expert who had grasped the will of the Great Path, he had even seen high-grade Dominator divine weapons before. Naturally, he could recognize that the Raging Flames Magic Sword was an intermediate-grade Dominator divine weapon. Furthermore, under Qin Feiyang's deliberate arrangement, the Raging Flames Magic Sword directly appeared in front of Mu Qing. And all these years, the Raging Flames Magic Sword had been repairing its body in the land of origin, and had never appeared in the world. Therefore, no one in the Divine Kingdom knew that Qin Feiyang had an intermediate-grade Dominator divine weapon. They also didn't know that the Raging Flames Magic Sword belonged to Qin Feiyang. So when they saw the Raging Flames Magic Sword appear in front of Mu Qing, they naturally thought that Mu Qing was the owner of the Raging Flames Magic Sword. This shocked the Great Venerable quite a bit, because even in the Divine Kingdom, intermediate-grade Dominator divine weapons were rare. Anyone who had an intermediate-grade Dominator divine weapon must have an extraordinary background. Not only the Great Venerable, even the human race's Supremes and the other 9 Supremes who were secretly watching were also shocked. If even these big shots were like this, then there was no need to mention the others in Mount Supreme. Whether it was Wang Feng and the other prodigies, or the enforcers of Mount Supreme, they were all shocked. Especially Zhao Hong. His face was filled with disbelief. He actually has an intermediate-grade Dominator divine weapon? What kind of joke is this? I'm coming. Mu Qing grinned at Zhao Hong, grabbed the Raging Flames Magic Sword, and charged towards Zhao Hong with an earth-shattering sharpness. You're shameless. Zhao Hong shuddered, and immediately roared as he turned around and ran. Shameless? I don't think it said that I can't use a Dominator divine weapon. Mu Qing's face was filled with mockery. With a clang, the Raging Flames Magic Sword flew out of his hand and turned into a bolt of lightning. It instantly caught up to Zhao Hong, who was running away. Accompanied by a scream, a fist-sized bloody hole appeared on Zhao Hong's lower abdomen. The Raging Flames Magic Sword aura turned into a sword dragon and pierced through Zhao Hong's lower abdomen, causing blood to flow out. With his energy reserve shattered, it was useless no matter how strong he was. That's it? Mu Qing's eyes were filled with disdain as he stepped forward and kicked. Zhao Hong howled in pain as he smashed into the mountains below like a blood-stained meteorite. But it wasn't over yet. Mu Qing grabbed the Raging Flames Magic Sword and stepped onto the ground below, stomping towards Zhao Hong's head. Zhao Hong's head was instantly crushed, and flesh and blood splattered everywhere. Have mercy. Everything happened too quickly. The Great Supremacy quickly came back to his senses and shouted. Mu Qing turned a deaf ear to him. The Raging Flames Magic Sword in his hand surged out and slashed towards Zhao Hong's divine soul. No, Zhao Hong screamed in fear. The Great Supremacy also quickly rushed down to stop him. But at the same time, Qin Feiyong took a step forward and stood in front of the Great Venerable. "What are you doing?" The Great Supremacy said angrily. "When Zhao Hong challenged me, he didn't say anything about stopping." Qin Feiyong smiled slightly. The madman, the white-eyed wolf, and Li Feng looked at each other with a playful smile on their faces. Since he dared to challenge them, he had to pay the price. Hearing this, the Great Supremacy's face darkened. Qin Feiyong said with a faint smile, "If the Great Supremacy is confident that you can defeat me, you can do it." While they were talking, the Raging Flame's magic sword had already arrived. "Great Supremacy, save me!" Zhao Hong roared in despair. The next moment, his divine soul shattered in the void, leaving behind a headless corpse dripping with blood. Looking at this scene, the Great Supremacy was furious to the extreme. But Qin Feiyong and the others didn't care at all, with a faint smile on their faces. This was the deterrence of strength. If it was before, Qin Feiyong hadn't comprehended the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death, and hadn't grasped the will of the heavenly Tao. Facing a powerhouse like the Great Supremacy, he could only be cautious. But now, so what if you're a Great Supremacy? So what if you're a human supremacy? If you dare to make a move, I'll kill you. Mount Supreme's prodigy. Mu Qing wiped the bloodstains on the Raging Flame's magic sword and chuckled. "You're just as..." As his voice fell, he stepped into the sky and looked down at the entire Mount Supreme. "Which other prodigy wants to challenge me?" His voice wasn't loud, but it shook the entire Mount Supreme. Not a single disciple dared to make a sound. Their eyes were filled with fear. Even Wang Feng and the other prodigies didn't dare to make a sound. "You've gone too far by killing our Mount Supreme's prodigy. Lord Supreme, please bring out our Mount Supreme's sovereign divine weapon." The angry shouts of the various supremacies sounded from all directions of Mount Supreme. Qin Feiyong looked around and said with a faint smile, "Fellow supremacies, you're all so murderous. You were the ones who killed our Mount Supreme's prodigy first, and now you're saying that we're murderous?" The various supremacies were furious. "What can we do?" Zhao Hong asked for it. "Of course, if you insist on attacking, we won't stop you. However, let me give you a piece of advice. Think twice before you act. After all, Mount Supreme is the sacred land of the human race. If you're not careful, you might be razed to the ground by us. That would be a huge sin." Madman snickered. Without the Divine Kingdom's sovereign divine weapon, they were just that fearless. "If you want to fight, I'll fight you anytime." The various supremacies were furious. What kind of advice? This was obviously a blatant threat to them. "As a human venerable one, you're only good at talking." Mu Qing smiled in disdain and looked around. He said proudly, "Remember my name, the owner of the all-seeing eye, Mu Qing." Mu Qing, everyone murmured. Without a doubt, this name would be imprinted in the minds of everyone in Mount Supreme. Great supremacies, bring them over. At this moment, the human supremacy's voice sounded. Yes. The Great Supremacy suppressed his killing intent and looked at Qin Feiyong and the others. "Please." The group of people immediately followed the Great Supremacies and flew deeper into the mountain under everyone's gazes. As for the flame magic sword, it was once again sent to the land of origin to repair its body. Mu Qing, all-seeing eye, this group of people is really terrifying. After entering our Mount Supreme, they didn't hold back at all. Instead, they killed Zhao Hong in front of the supremacies and the 10 supremacies. Zhao Hong is a true genius who has mastered 2 ultimate mysteries. Even the supremacies praised him and said that his future was limitless. I didn't expect him to die in the hands of these people. As soon as Qin Feiyong and the others left, the place immediately exploded. Everyone's face was filled with shock. Wang Feng and the others looked at each other. There was also an indescribable fear in their hearts. Although they deliberately provoked Zhao Hong, they never thought that Mu Qing would directly kill him. Because in their opinion, no matter how bold Qin Feiyong and the others were, they should have restrained themselves after coming to Mount Supreme. But in the end it was completely different. Even if the great supremacies were present, they couldn't stop the killing intent of this group of people. In the depths, a 10,000-foot-tall mountain stood among the mountains like a king. At the top of the mountain, there was an ancient hall that looked extremely simple. In front of the hall there was a square. At this moment, The great supremacies led Qin Feiyang and the others to the square. There was no one around, but there was an aura coming from the hall. It was the aura of the human supremacies. "Come in." The voice of the human supremacies sounded in the hall. Qin Feiyang and the others looked at each other and followed behind the great supremacies. The hall was also extremely simple. It was impossible to tell that this was the place where the human supremacies lived. At this moment, the human supremacies sat on the side of the hall alone with a tea table in front of them. The tea was already brewed. The tea fragrance filled the entire hall. Qin Feiyang smelled the tea fragrance and his eyes immediately lit up. This was the smell of divine tea. The human supremacies raised his head and looked at the great supremacies with a smile. "You go out first and close the door. I want to talk to them alone." "How can you?" the great supremacies hurriedly said with a face full of worry. One had to know. The current Qin Feiyang completely had the ability to kill a supremacies. "It's okay." The human supremacies smiled. Chapter 4082. All right. The great supremacy nodded, bowed, and retreated to the main hall, closing the door. "Please sit." The human race supremacy looked at Qin Feiyang and the other four and pointed at the wooden stools beside the tea table. The five of them sat down. Qin Feiyang and the human race supremacy sat opposite each other. The frenzy white-eyed wolf Li Feng and Mu Qing sat on either side of Qin Feiyang. Sometimes there were hidden mysteries in the seats they sat in. If it was any other time or when friends gathered, they could sit however they wanted without any rules. But at this time there had to be a hierarchy. Of course, the hierarchy here didn't represent the difference in status. In other words, Qin Feiyang sat in the middle, facing the human race supremacy, but it didn't mean that he was superior to the frenzy and the others. Because to Qin Feiyang and the others, no matter how strong or weak you were, they were all friends and partners, and their status was the same. And at this moment, the so-called hierarchy actually represented the candidate to negotiate with the human race supremacy. Among the five, Qin Feiyang was more meticulous, so Qin Feiyang was the leader to negotiate with the human race supremacy. And the main negotiator had to face the other party face to face to show respect to the other party. Of course, the frenzy white-eyed wolf Mu Qing and Li Feng weren't easy to deal with, and they definitely had the ability to negotiate. However, whether it was in the past or now, as long as Qin Feiyang was present, they couldn't be bothered to waste their energy and gave Qin Feiyang full authority to deal with it. "You guys are really impressive, giving us a show of strength as soon as you came to Mount Supreme." The human race supremacy shook his head as he poured 5 cups of tea and pushed them in front of Qin Feiyang and the others. The white-eyed wolf looked at the teacup with disdain, then took out a jar of unparalleled divine wine and said to the frenzy and the others, "Do you guys want it?" "Yes." The 3 nodded. The white-eyed wolf took out another 3 people and threw them to them. Then the 4 of them began to drink leisurely. They didn't even spare a glance at the divine tea in the teacups, which made the human supremes feel rather awkward. However, when he saw Qin Feiyang pick up the teacup and taste it with an experienced look, he felt a lot better. Finally, there was someone who knew what was good for them. But he didn't know. It wasn't that white-eyed wolf and the others didn't know what was good for them. It was that they weren't interested in tea at all. Not bad. Qin Feiyang nodded in satisfaction. This kind of divine tea was refreshing, making one feel as if they were standing under a cool sea breeze, leaving a rich aftertaste. It seems that little brother is really a tea lover. The supreme being of the human race chuckled. He had thought that Qin Feiyang was pretending. "I don't have any other hobbies. I just like this." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. After tasting it for a while he said, "Senior, this time it wasn't us who deliberately wanted to show off. It was your Supreme Mountain's disciples who were too blind. It was indeed Zhaohong who provoked us first. But you killed him just like that. How would our Supreme Mountain face the world in the future?" The human Supreme shook his head and sighed. "You naturally have to pay the price for doing something wrong. This is the rule," Qin Feiyang said. "Then what about your actions in the Divine Kingdom? Looting the spirit veins and crystal veins of 51 cities, breaking into the Divine Island, and greatly damaging the Divine Race's vitality. Isn't this a mistake?" The human Supremes asked. If the divine kingdom didn't invade the sky cloud realm, would these things still happen? This is the so-called karma. The divine kingdom committed a heinous crime in the sky cloud realm. Our sky cloud realm came to collect the debt. Is this a mistake? Qin Feiyang chuckled. The four of them looked at each other. The smell of gunpowder had already appeared. Young man, you really have a glib tongue. The human supreme smiled bitterly. No. What this junior said is the truth. No matter what we did in the divine kingdom, you have no right to blame us. Because this is the evil karma that you planted with your own hands. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Although he didn't witness the divine kingdom's first invasion of the sky cloud realm, it wasn't hard to imagine how tragic the battle was from what the little rabbit, Feather Emperor, and others said. These were all the sins committed by the divine kingdom. Blood for blood, everyone understood the principle of blood. Frankly speaking, his current attitude towards the divine kingdom was already very benevolent. If it was someone else with his strength, they would definitely massacre the divine kingdom. Evil karma. The human supremes murmured and couldn't help but sigh. In the past he didn't feel anything because he wasn't from the sky cloud realm. But now, seeing Qin Feiyang and others break into the divine kingdom, and make the divine kingdom face the crisis of the sky cloud realm back then, he realized that in the past, the divine kingdom had indeed caused too much damage to the sky cloud realm. Qin Feiyang put down the teacup and said with a smile, "Please forgive this junior for saying something offensive. Although you are the human supremes, your awareness is far from enough." Hearing this, a trace of suspicion crawled on the face of the human supremes. Whether it is the divine kingdom or the sky cloud realm, as long as one is a human, they belong to the human race. But as the human supremes, not only did you not protect them, you even helped the evildoers to harm them. May I ask, are you really competent as the human supremes? Are you worthy of the title of the human supremes? Qin Feiyang asked again and again, leaving the human supremes speechless. My ancestor, the human emperor. Like you, he was the leader of the human race of the sky cloud realm. Although I have not seen him with my own eyes, I am sure that if it were him, he would never harm the human race of the divine kingdom. Not to mention the human emperor, just my ancestor Qin Badian. How much did he sacrifice for the world in his life? If you have the chance in the future, you can go to the Great Qin, the Forgotten Continent, and the ancient world to see how the people of these places praise him. No, not only the human race, but the other races also respect him. This is a person who truly cares for the world. Maybe now you see me desperately protecting the sky cloud realm and think that I am very great, but in fact, compared to my ancestor, I am nothing. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said it lightly, but in the ears of the human supremes, it was like a bolt from the blue. Thinking back to what he had done in the past, he was indeed ashamed of the title of the human supremes. A true human supreme should have no boundaries, no distinction between worlds, and could protect all the humans in the world. Let's get back to the topic. Why did you ask us to come to Mount Supreme? Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. It could be seen that the human supreme's faith had been shaken, but this kind of thing could not be rushed. He had to be given a time to adapt. Heard. The human supremes took a deep breath and sincerely begged, I hope that you can leave the divine kingdom. Leave the divine kingdom? Madman and the others were stunned. What kind of joke was this? They had come here after a narrow escape, how could they leave just like that? Qin Feiyang took a sip of tea and chuckled. Do you think it is possible? Impossible. The human supreme smiled bitterly. If it was him, he would not leave the divine kingdom so easily. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. He put down the teacup and looked at the human supreme seriously. You want us to leave the divine kingdom because you are worried that we will destroy the divine kingdom. Actually, I have a better proposal here. What proposal? The human supremes was suspicious. Join forces with us and get rid of the divine kingdom's ruler. Qin Feiyang said, without hiding anything. His words were filled with killing intent. What? The human supreme suddenly stood up and looked at Qin Feiyang in shock. The target of this group of people was actually the divine kingdom's ruler. Qin Feiyang said, at this point, I will not hide it from you. Our purpose in coming to the divine kingdom is to destroy the divine kingdom. Destroy the divine kingdom. The human supremes was shocked. That's right. Destroy the divine kingdom. In other words, destroy this world. Make the divine kingdom disappear from this world. Qin Feiyong said. The human supremes was extremely shocked. Destroying the divine kingdom was even more shocking than killing the ruler. Because killing the ruler, even if it was successful, only one person would die. But destroying the divine kingdom was destroying the entire world and all the living beings here. Everything would turn into dust. But to be honest, I really can't bear to destroy all the living beings in the divine kingdom, so I set my sights on the divine kingdom's ruler. After all, there is a good saying, every injustice has its perpetrator and every debt has its debtor. At the same time, I also think highly of you. If you are willing to cooperate with us, when we get rid of the divine kingdom's ruler, this world will be under your control. As the ruler of the divine kingdom, you will be able to rebuild the order of the divine kingdom. At that time, the grudges between the divine kingdom and the sky cloud realm will not only be buried, but also become partners that help and support each other. Compared to killing each other, isn't this better? Qin Feiyong asked with a smile. This information was too huge for the human supremes. Waves were rolling in his heart, unable to calm down. Killing the ruler. He didn't even dare to think about such a thing. After a long time, he calmed down and asked, "Why do you think so highly of me?" Because of the power of faith. As the ruler of the divine kingdom, even he didn't get the power of faith. Instead, you, a human, got the faith of the living beings of the divine kingdom. Why is that? This is because you are indeed a person who sincerely cares about the common people. Having you rule the divine kingdom, I think it should be a blessing for the living beings of the divine kingdom. Qin Feiyong smiled. You also know about the power of faith? The human supremes were surprised. I know a little. I believe you should also know that I have an independent world. Maybe soon I will also be able to control the power of faith. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. The Black Tortoise realm was no secret in the Sky Cloud realm. Therefore, people like Zhang Yunshuang and Ryuko had already inquired about it in the Black Tortoise realm. I have indeed heard of your Black Tortoise realm. The human supremes nodded. Qin Feiyong said, "Let me add one more thing. If this continues, I'm afraid we won't need to do anything. You, the human supremes, may die in the hands of the ruler of the divine kingdom." Die in the hands of the ruler? The human supremes were stunned. Madman and the other three also looked at Qin Feiyong in confusion. The human supremes was the subordinate of the divine kingdom's ruler. He was loyal and powerful. How could the ruler of the divine kingdom attack him? This was a bit unreasonable. Chapter 4083. Qin Feiyong glanced at the madman and the others before looking at the human race supreme being. I'm not trying to scare you. The reason why I dare to say this is because I have proof. What proof? The human race supreme being frowned. It's still the power of faith. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed. The power of faith, the human race supreme being murmured. The madman and the others were also pondering. Suddenly, the madman's eyes lit up as he looked at Qin Feiyong and said, "I think I already understand what you mean. I remember that the young man said that the power of faith will become stronger and stronger until it can even threaten the ruler." That's right. Qin Feiyong nodded and looked at the human race supreme being with a smile. Although you have the power of faith now, you might not understand the power of faith as well as we do. The human race supreme being became more and more confused. He really didn't know that it could threaten the ruler. If the living beings of the world are compared to water, then this world is a boat. The water can carry the boat, but it can also overturn it. The faith and will of the living beings of the world can support this world, but it can also overturn this world. Think about it, with the personality of the divine kingdom's ruler, will he allow such a thing to happen? I can tell him with certainty that he won't. He hasn't done anything to you now because the power of faith you have hasn't reached the point where it can threaten him. Furthermore, you are very strong. For now you still have a lot of value. But if one day he discovers that you have become a threat to him, he will definitely get rid of you at the first moment. Qin Feiyong said. The human race supreme being's pupils contracted. Of course, you will definitely say that you are not afraid of death. But have you ever thought that after you die, the divine kingdom's ruler will choose a new leader of the human race? Can you guarantee that this new leader will treat the living beings of the world well? If he really treats the living beings of the world well, then that's fine. But if he is a tyrant, then it will definitely be a scene of misery and suffering. Senior, can you bear to see this happen? Qin Feiyong closed in step by step, causing the hearts of the human race's supremes to be in a mess. Now that you've won the trust and faith of all the living beings in the world, you should stand up and do something for them. Even if the chances are slim, we should still try to fight for it. This is what a true human paragon should be like. Qin Feiyong sighed. The supreme master of the human clan lowered his head in silence. Qin Feiyong didn't say anything else. Madman and the other three were also silent. Inside the hall, green smoke rose from the teapot on the tea table, and the hall gradually fell into a dead silence. Several hundred breaths passed. Seeing that the supreme being of the human clan had yet to speak, Qin Feiyong smiled faintly and said, "You don't have to be in a hurry. You can take your time to think about it. This time, I have come here to ask you about another matter." Although there was a famous saying to strike while the iron was hot, sometimes when faced with some things one really could not be impatient. Wasn't there another famous saying? Haste makes waste. The supreme being of the human clan took a deep breath, looked up at Qin Feiyong and asked, "What is it?" Qin Feiyong looked at Mu Qing. Mu Qing waved his hand, and the top of a giant mountain appeared in the void beside him. There was a tea garden on the top of the mountain, and it was full of divine tea trees. This was the place where Jishaoui was found by him using the all-seeing eye. Looking at this place, the pupils of the supreme being of the human clan immediately shrank. This vision was clearly captured by Qin Feiyong and the others, and they thought that it must be an extremely terrifying place. After all, even the supreme being of the human clan seemed to be afraid of it. "How did you know about this place?" the supreme being of the human clan asked. This is the scene that Mu Qing saw when he checked Jishaoi's whereabouts with the all-seeing eye. Qin Feiyong did not hide it. The supreme being of the human clan looked at Mu Qing and exclaimed, "The all-seeing eye is indeed extraordinary, but you'd better not go to this place." "Why?" The five of them were suspicious. "Because this is a place that even the divine king and I don't dare to set foot in." The supreme being of the human clan had a serious expression. Qin Feiyong and the others were shocked. If even the supreme being of the human clan and the divine king didn't dare to set foot in this place, then how dangerous was it? Qin Feiyong, not good. Suddenly, Mu Qing's eyes trembled. "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyong and the others looked at him in shock. Mu Qing said in a deep voice, "The divine king and the king are bringing people to Mount Supreme." He had been using the all-seeing eye to spy on the whereabouts of the king and the divine king. At this moment, the two giants were gathering the experts of their clans and preparing to rush to Mount Supreme. "How did they know that we were at Mount Supreme?" Li Feng frowned. "The God Race and the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan have spies all over the Divine Kingdom. Mu Qing killed Zhao Hong at Mount Supreme. How could such a big commotion be hidden from them?" A cold light flashed in the mad scientist's eyes. "Then what do we do now?" Li Feng was worried. "Retreat." The mad scientist immediately stood up. Mu Qing, the white-eyed wolf, and Li Feng also stood up. All-seeing eye. The supreme being of the human clan looked at Mu Qing. Another powerful opponent. No. In a sense, Mu Qing was more terrifying than Qin Feiyong and the others. Qin Feiyong and the others were terrifying because they killed enemies. In other words, they were terrifying on the battlefield. But outside the battlefield, Mu Qing was a bigger threat. Qin Feiyong asked Senior one last question. "What is the strongest battle soul that Jishaoui, Lu Zhongqian and Zhuang Mingyue have?" "You can even find out the battle souls of Zhang Yunshuang and the other two. Do you still need to ask me?" The supreme being of the human clan shook his head. "Don't be so stubborn, okay? If you are afraid of the ruler, there is no need to do so now. Because the ruler has already left the divine kingdom." The mad scientist frowned. "The ruler has already left the divine kingdom?" The supreme being of the human clan was surprised. "Nonsense. If he still left the divine kingdom, would we dare to openly discuss this with you?" The mad scientist rolled his eyes. "Then where is he now?" the supreme being of the human clan asked. "Nether King Hell. He shouldn't be able to return in 10,000 years. The white-eyed wolf laughed coldly. The supreme being of the human clan was shocked. No wonder this group of people became so unscrupulous. It turned out that the ruler had already left the divine kingdom. However, why did the ruler leave the divine kingdom? The danger that Qin Feiyang and the others brought to the divine kingdom was obvious to all. Even if the ruler was being held back by the ice dragon and the heaven-devouring beast, he should have stayed in the divine kingdom to pay attention to the situation. Suddenly, his body shook. That's right. The ice dragon and the heaven-devouring beast. The ruler's departure was most likely out of his own will. The mad scientist looked at the supreme being of the human clan and was about to speak. Qin Feiyang reached out his hand to stop the mad scientist and smiled. Then, Senior, please think about it carefully. This Junior and the others will take our leave. Saying so, he looked at Li Feng. Li Feng understood and opened a space-time tunnel. The group of 5 quickly left. Not long after they left, accompanied by powerful auras, the ruler and the divine king's group arrived. Without any hesitation, his divine sense enveloped Mount Supreme. But in the end, they couldn't find any trace of Qin Feiyang's group. Divine King Ruler, come in and talk. The voice of the supreme being of the human clan sounded in the main hall, and the tightly shut door slowly opened. The ruler and the supreme being looked at each other and immediately entered the main hall, disappearing. Heavenly Lord Ji and the other powerhouses stayed outside and talked with the various sovereigns of Mount Supreme. Qingtian City. Outside the city, the mad scientist said angrily, "We didn't find anything. This trip was completely in vain." It wasn't in vain. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. What do you mean? The mad scientist frowned. Didn't you notice? The supreme being of the human clan has begun to waver. Now we just need an opportunity. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. What kind of opportunity do we need? The mad scientist was suspicious. This is possible. We still need the ruler of the divine kingdom to help us. If the ruler of the divine kingdom really does something to him, it is equivalent to forcing him to rebel. And I believe that this day will come sooner or later. Qin Feiyang chuckled. If what the young man said is true, then the supreme being of the human clan will indeed be killed sooner or later. At that time we can take the opportunity to save him. Then, wouldn't we be able to make the supreme being of the human clan our partner? The white-eyed wolf laughed. The mad scientist pondered for a while and nodded. That makes sense. Qin Feiyang said. Now let's split up. Split up? Qin Feiyang and the others were stunned. Senior brother, white-eyed wolf, immediately go to the North Continent and find a way to find out about Ji Shaoi's battle soul and where he is now. But remember, don't be impulsive. Wait for us. Qin Feiyang reminded. Okay. The mad scientist nodded and asked suspiciously, but what are you going to do? Qin Feiyang smiled and said, find a chance to meet the divine king and see if we can complete the deal. When the mad scientist and the white-eyed wolf heard this, they immediately looked forward to it. If they could complete the deal, then they would be able to obtain the inheritance of the 3 ultimate profound laws. Then be careful. The ingrate warned before turning around and tearing through the sky like a bolt of lightning with madman. After watching the two leave, Qin Feiyang turned to Mu Qing and said with a smile, now I will have to trouble you to spy on the whereabouts of the divine king and the mad scientist. Leave it to me. Mu Qing smiled. After the all-seeing eye evolved, she had become more confident than before. Chapter 4084. Late at night. It was extremely quiet in the mountains. Qin Feiyang and Li Feng were both sitting cross-legged on the ground. Below them was a time formation. This was the time law of 5,000 years in a day, and it was personally set up by Qin Feiyang. Now that he had grasped the ultimate meaning of the time law, he could naturally set up a time formation. Don't say. Setting up a time formation with his own hand still gave him a sense of accomplishment. Suddenly, Mu Qing's eyes flashed, and she turned to look at Qin Feiyang and Li Feng, who were resting with their eyes closed, and said, the divine king and the king have already left Mount Supreme. The two opened their eyes one after another. Li Feng looked up at the waning moon in the night sky and frowned. They actually stayed at Mount Supreme for an entire day. They can't be plotting something, right? I don't know if they are plotting anything. But one thing is certain. The king and the divine king must have already heard about the ruler leaving the divine kingdom from the human sovereign. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and turned to Mu Qing. Where did the divine king go? straight back to the island of gods. The king has also returned to the North Continent. The human sovereign is still at Mount Supreme. Mu Qing said. All right, Li Feng, let's go to the island of gods now. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. The island of gods. Like a giant beast, it floated in the night sky, making people feel intimidated. In a hall, the Divine King and the 10 sovereigns of the god race were gathered here. The Divine King looked at the 10 sovereigns and said, I gathered you here in the middle of the night because I have a few things to discuss with you. The 10 sovereigns were silent, waiting for him to continue. Today, I discussed a lot of issues with the Divine Kingdom and the human sovereign at Mount Supreme. One of the most serious issues is that the ruler of the Divine Kingdom has already left the Divine Kingdom. The Divine King said. What? The 10 venerables immediately fell into chaos. The Divine King raised his eyebrows and said angrily, You are one of the 10 great venerables of the god race, second only to one and above all. How can you be so flustered? What is this? My lord, it's not our fault. The Creator is the pillar of the Divine Kingdom. Now that the pillar has left, how can we not panic? The God Clan Great Venerable sighed. I can understand. That's why I'm telling you in advance so that you can be mentally prepared. From now on, the situation in the Divine Kingdom will definitely become more serious. Because without the sovereign, Qin Feiyang and the others will be even more unbridled. The Divine King clenched his fists, his eyes filled with hatred. Where is the sovereign now? When will he return? The 10 reverends of the God Clan asked. Hades, hell. I believe all of you have heard of this place, the Divine King said. I've heard of it. Back then, Jiunhai led a group of people to kill their way into hell. The Blood Demon King used the power of his entire clan to stop him. In the end, both sides suffered great losses. The Great Venerables nodded. Hades is a continent in the lower realm of the Sky Cloud realm. The sovereign's presence in Hades must have something to do with the Ice Dragon and the Heaven-devouring beast. In other words, it will be difficult for the sovereign to return to the Divine Kingdom within 10,000 years. The Divine King sighed. The Great Venerable asked doubtfully, How did you know about this? Qin Feiyang was the one who told the human race supremes about this. And this Qin Feiyang, the killing intent in the Divine King's eyes intensified as he said this. That person by Qin Feiyang's side called Mu Qing has already stolen Zhang Zishan's all-seeing eye. All of this was seen by Mu Qing with the all-seeing eye. Bastard! The 10 great venerables were furious. If Zhang Zishan's all-seeing eye had been stolen, then Zhang Yunshuang and Zhang Xing's eye of life and eye of evil must have been stolen as well. Compared to anger, we should be more afraid now. Eye of heaven, eye of despair, all-seeing eye, eye of evil, eye of life. Now, the Sky Cloud realm already has the 5 strongest battle souls, and they have all evolved successfully. It's not an exaggeration to say that if these 5 people join forces, let alone encircle them, I'm afraid even tracking their whereabouts will be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. The Divine King let out a long sigh, feeling powerless. Hearing this, the 10 great venerables also fell silent. Yes, back then only Qin Feiyang and the demon ancestor were so difficult to deal with, let alone now there were 3 more people with the strongest battle souls. And now the sovereign was not here. Was the Divine Kingdom really going to decline? They were unwilling. If the entire Sky Cloud realm had invaded the Divine Kingdom, they could still accept it. But now it was just a few young people. A few young people had shaken the foundation of the entire Divine Kingdom. Just thinking about it made them feel ridiculous. The Divine King took a deep breath, looked at the 10 great venerables and said, So the second thing I want to ask you, are we still going to rescue Zhang Yunshuang and the others? Of course. The 10 great venerables said without hesitation. Because he was Zhang Yunshuang's great-grandfather. Zhang Yunshuang was also the most outstanding young person in his lineage. However, the other 9 great venerables were silent. What are you doing? Although Shuang Er's battle soul has been taken away, her talent is still there. As long as she is nurtured well in time, she will be able to master the will of heaven. Moreover, Shuang Er usually treats you with respect, and you should know in your heart how filial she is. Now that she is in trouble, are you just going to watch her die? The 10 venerables glared at the other 9 great venerables. One of the venerables sighed and said, We don't deny Zhang Yunshuang's talent, But without the strongest fighting soul, his achievements will be limited. Old 8, your words are too heartless. What do you mean by limited achievements? Back then, when you were young, you didn't have the strongest fighting soul, but didn't you still enjoy the resources and treatment that others dreamed of? The 10 venerables said furiously. The 8th venerable lord glanced at the 10th venerable lord and lowered his head in silence. Actually, the most important thing is still the inheritance of the ultimate profound. If you want to rescue the 3 of them, you'll have to exchange for the inheritance of 3 ultimate profundities of ultimate laws. 3 legacies. This is not something that ordinary resources can compare to. The God Clan Great Venerable shook his head. I admit it. But now Shuang-Er has mastered the ultimate profundity of the 3 ultimate laws. Jiang Xing and Jiang Zishan also mastered 2 ultimate profundities of ultimate laws. Could it be that his talent is still not comparable to the 3 successions? No matter what, I won't give up on saving them. If you don't save them, I'll think of a way myself. The attitude of the 10 venerables was very firm. What can you do? The Divine King looked at him. I don't know yet, but there will always be a way. The 10th venerable lord said in a deep voice. Boom! But at this moment, a rumbling sound rang out in the sky. Who's there? Immediately after a shout rang out. The Divine King and the 10 venerables looked at each other and immediately walked out of the main hall. They saw that there was a big hole in the barrier in the sky above. An enforcer stood in the sky and scanned the surroundings. In his hand, he was holding a piece of paper. What's going on? The Divine King asked. The enforcer landed in front of the Divine King and the others and said respectfully, Lord Divine King, someone blasted open the barrier earlier, but this person disappeared too quickly. I didn't see his face clearly, but I found a letter. After saying that, he bowed and handed the letter to the Divine King. The Divine King took the letter and opened it. There was a line of words written on it. 3 days later, in the middle of the night, please go to the 1000 Phoenix Mountain alone for a chat, Divine King. Who's so bold? One of the venerables frowned. Do you still need to think? It must be Qin Feiyong and those little bastards. The Divine King clenched his 5 fingers and the letter was torn to pieces. His eyes were extremely gloomy. It was simply too arrogant to come and go as they pleased in the sacred land of the God race. The 10 venerables' expressions were also extremely ugly. They had never seen such an arrogant person. You can leave. The Divine King looked at the enforcer and said. The enforcer bowed and left. The Deity King looked at the 10 reverends and said in a deep voice, They want me to go to the 1000 Phoenix Mountain alone. It should be to exchange for Jiang Yunshuang and the other 2. Now make your stand. Will you save them or not? We must save them. The 10 venerables said. The venerables of the God race looked at the 10 venerables and sighed. Save them. Otherwise, the people below will probably talk about us behind our backs and say that we're cold-blooded and heartless. The other 8 venerables looked at each other and sighed helplessly. If they didn't save them, they might really be cursed in the future. Since all of you have agreed, I'll send a message to the king and the supremes of the human race now and ask them for the inheritance of the laws. The Divine King took a deep breath and entered the main hall. 3 days later. Late at night. The 1000 Phoenix Mountain was a steep mountain range in the west of the South Continent. The ferocious beasts there were very powerful. Ordinary people wouldn't dare to set foot there. But at this moment, a figure descended on the mountain peak like a ghost and couldn't be captured. Where is he? Is he playing with me? It was a woman with a hint of anger in her tone. It was the Divine King. At the same time, outside the mountain range, in a dense forest, 3 young men stood side by side. How is it? The leader asked. It was Qin Feiyong. Mu Qing smiled and said, The king, the supremes of the human race, Heavenly Lord Ji and the venerables of the other races are all hiding in the Divine King's space divine item. They know that we have the all-seeing eye, but they still did such a childish thing. Don't you think it's funny? Li Feng sneered. They're betting that we'll let our guard down. If we're careless and don't use the all-seeing eye, won't we fall into their trap? Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. If that's the case, then they've underestimated us. Li Feng's face was full of disdain. Since the Divine King doesn't listen to us, then let's teach him a lesson. Let's go to the Divine Island. A cold light flashed in Qin Feiyong's eyes. If he didn't teach these people a lesson, they wouldn't remember. Boom! Soon, with a loud rumbling sound, the divine island floating in the night sky was torn apart. There weren't many casualties among the god race. Soon, the divine king and the others received the news. Damned little bastard! The divine king and the 10 venerables of the god race were instantly enraged. I told you that it's impossible to encircle them now. The supremes of the human race sighed. They didn't hurt the god race, nor did they take away the spirit vein or the crystal vein. They only destroyed the divine island. Seems like they're warning us. The king also shook his head and smiled wryly. He looked at the divine king and said, "Let's deal with them honestly." Then he opened a passage and left with Heavenly Lord Ji and the others. The supremes of the human race also returned to the west continent with the overlords of the human race. At the top of the mountain, the supremes of the human race pulled a long face. The 10 venerables clenched their fists and tried to control their anger. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.